Hey guys, welcome to my Worlds 2024 tier list. Today I'm going to be ranking all of the teams in different categories, as I always do every single year. Don't forget, I'll be co-streaming all of Worlds 2024 on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Caedrel. I'll be watching every single game live every day of the competition. Yeah, always welcome to debate in the comments and everything like that. This is just my opinion after watching the leagues all year long. And yeah, hope you enjoy. We're back with the Caedrel tier list. Let me just do something real quick. They're very important. Very important for the tier list. Alright, the World's tier lists are back. Once a month again. Now, you might be wondering, yo, Caedrel, I watched your World's tier list from 2023. You're missing a tier. GOAT tier. Well, Weibo Gaming doesn't have the shy on it, so there's no GOAT tier anymore. We had GOAT tier at the top, okay? No the shy, no GOAT tier. That's just where it's at. First of all, let's get rid of the chores. Cloud9 and KT. Where are they? I don't want to laugh at JDG because I feel bad for Ruler. But where's KT and Cloud9? What happened? What happened? I thought KT was supposed to be better than Damwon. Law was telling me all year long that KT was going to be better than Damwon. People told me KT was a super team and they're going to be, with their new rookie, they're going to be crazy with Deft and the DRX run. Nothing. And then C9 lost to 100 Ts. Okay, good. Now that we got that out of the way. I will not be ranking SHG, Vikings, Rainbow 7. So I'm going to add a tier below, actually, and just call it IDK. Because as much as I did a minor region video, I don't feel like I'm qualified enough to talk about these teams. Movistar Rainbow 7, Pain Gaming, Vikings Esports, SHG. Now, I don't feel very qualified about GAM, but I feel like GAM, I've seen enough internationals of GAM and Levi that I got a pretty good understanding on where they'll be. Okay, let's go with things that people won't be surprised by. My favorites to win the tournament. I would have had two favorites to win this tournament, which would have been BLG and GENG. I think no one really would have been shocked by that. No one would be really shocked by BLG, GENG being the favorites to win the tournament. And for context, the way I'm ranking these teams, this is important, is not based on where they could position. It's based on where they would position if Worlds happened now, on this patch, from playoffs. If I base it based on assumptions, then obviously things will change, right? But if I'm going to base it on playoffs, okay? The meta might change, teams might look fraudulent or better, but I think it's bad to rate the teams based on expectations because you're not doing the justice of how good they performed all year. So that's why GENG and BLG are the favorites to win Worlds. I mean, easily. I feel like GENG, obviously, losing the finals, it's really awkward that they lost the finals to Hammerlife. But this roster, I mean, they were basically on the precipice of a golden road. They're insanely good. I think GENG kind of did what BLG did in playoffs, what GENG kind of wanted to do, which is stomp. I mean, BLG was not even contested. Like the LPL was so one-sided in playoffs when it came to BLG. It wasn't even close. It wasn't. They were not tested at all. They lost one game in playoffs. That's it. And this game they played Diana or some shit, didn't they? Yeah, they played Diana Yasuo, which is... The Diana Yasuo looked completely trash on the meta, and that's the only reason they lost. If they played any other draft with Maokai, Corki, Zeri, or anything of that iteration, they would have been fine. But no, the one game they lost was with Diana Yasuo, which just looked stupid. BLG had this weird thing where they would slowly ramp up into series, where it would be weird that BLG would lose game 1 of series for some reason. It would be like BLG just don't look like BLG in the first game, and they will be super slow into the series. When it gets to game 2, they are just absolute turnaround. Like here, they lose a 30-minute game to Weibo. They looked like, I'm not going to go to the game, but they looked completely AFK, let's say. Then you come into game 2, and they win in 24 minutes, and they just absolutely slam them. And I feel like it takes BLG for some reason. Like even against AL, they lost game 2. Against NIP, they lost game 1. Against Top Esports, they lost game 1. I don't know what it is with them. I'm not going to read into this trend too much, but they have this weird trend where in the first game of a series, they just look not like BLG, and then they look like BLG. So if you get to Worlds, and they're in a best of 5 of top 8, and they lose game 1, I don't want to hear narratives of like, wait, BLG look fucking bad. Like, oh my god, this could be the downfall. No, don't be game 1 endies with BLG. They are quite slow starts into some series. So I wouldn't be surprised if they get to a top 8 best of 5 and they lose first game. But BLG is easily like favorites to win. Bin, in my opinion, I'm going to leak it, best top lane in the world by far. I think the Renekton meta for him at the Worlds is crazy. Top lane's not changed too much. The main changes for top lane is Kennen got nerfed and Rumble got nerfed. And I think actually Rumble nerfs help out LPL top laners a lot, because I think Bin and 369 aren't big Rumble players, whereas players like Zeus and Doran, they love Rumble, right? So I actually think LPL top laners got a bit of a buff from the Rumble nerfs. If you remember last year at the Worlds, you might remember T1 JDG game 1, where the biggest like question mark was, what is JDG going to do in the draft? Are they going to leave Rumble open? And they did, and then T1 dared them by saying, we're not gonna pick Rumble. We know you can't play it. 369 first picked Rumble, and it didn't look great. He got gapped by the Aatrox. So historically, I don't want to go too far back in history, but LPL top laners just haven't been big Rumble players in my opinion. And I think that's a big buff to players like Bin, who I think he does play Rumble, but I don't think it's like his most comfortable champ versus players like Keen and Doran and Zeus who main it. I think the Shy was a great Rumble at Worlds last year, though. I mean, you might remember his Rumble in the game series against BLG. Was it BLG? Yeah, it was game 1. Absolute 1v9 machine. Shout out to the Shy. So yeah, in that essence, I think they get buffed. I think the meta for Knight, as much as I won't look at the meta in the future, I don't think there's any worries for BLG going onto the new patch, because obviously Syndra changed and stuff. But even on the AD carry mid-meta, Knight looked great. Any AD champs, he can play all of them. He also has this Annie thing, which you might remember from MSI, where the meta was like Annie Wukong and shit like that. Nico, Ahri, Talia. I think Knight has demonstrated that he has an insanely good champ pool for any meta. And he actually has been playing a bit of Azir this year. I'm still not a fan of his Azir, but I don't think Azir is that OP at Worlds this year. It's fine. I do think he got a little bit gapped by the Chovster, but yeah, we'll see how he does it this year's Worlds. I still think he's world-class top 2. I think Wei was the perfect addition. For some reason, people on Reddit were arguing that Wei is not a veteran. I don't understand how that's an argument when Wei has literally won MSI twice and been to Worlds like 3 times. I think this guy is the definition of a veteran. He is so experienced. Also, he was in RNG for a long time. But he's always been this AD jungle player, for lack of better words. Like, he is the Xin Zhao Jarvan guy. Xin Zhao Jarvan, Lee Sin Wukong guy. Like, Vi, Graves. I mean, look at his top 10 champs or some shit. He mains all the AD junglers. And Sejuani, of course. So I was a little bit worried when they announced that they picked up Wei, because the jungle meta was like Brand, Zyra, all that stuff. I was a bit skeptical of Wei. When he joined, I was like, well, this guy will be a good low econ jungler that can basically balance the 3 winning lanes, because BLG's playstyle was very bot-centric with Shun, but with Wei, I think they can play through every lane. You can even see like there's a lot more attention towards Bin. But I was worried, but his AP junglers were really good as well. Like, his carry jungle style was good. It didn't work on RNG. You can even see on RNG in the carry AP jungle style, he was still kind of leaning to AD champs, and even when he played AP champs, there was just... I mean, he doesn't even have a single win on them other than 1 Nidalee game, maybe, when he was on RNG. But RNG was a shipwreck in summer anyway, or in spring and summer. Yeah, Elk is... I don't know. The annoying thing is you don't really get stats from China, right? So you see this, but this is MSI stats if he's 43 CS up. But, I mean, Elk's been flawless. There's nothing you can point at Elk and say he's doing bad, other than you can argue maybe like his lane phase at the internationals this year against... players like GENG weren't the best, but yeah, Elk's been flawless. He's shown zigs. His teamfight positioning is perfect. His lane phases look really good. Him and On look great together. On is his own like separate, not problem, but On is a bit inconsistent, I think, where he will have games where, I mean, the thing is, I feel like supports do have this problem, and it applies to a lot of the good supports where they just run it down. Like, how many supports are there that have been world-class supports that just int? There's so many of them that just like walk in and die by themselves, and then they get labeled this inter. So yeah, as much as On's inconsistent, I think, yeah, BLG for sure favorites to win the championship next to GENG, who, I mean, what do you want to say about GENG? I think everyone already knows they're easily the favorites to win Worlds. I actually, even though they lost to Hammerlife, I would argue that if GENG and Hammerlife was a rematch, I would still say GENG is the favorite even after they lost. My biggest disappointment for GENG, and I said this before, was their finals. You know, I don't care that Pace was griefing it. Like, yeah, the easy person to scapegoat for this finals, and I agree, is Pace. Like, I think Pace's positioning in some of these games was fucking disgusting, and he was like ended up losing the game for his team in 2 of them. Yeah, here, for example, Pace's positioning was horrific, and I think that they probably would have won the game here. But he ends up like Eing into Viper and then dying, and then kind of like losing the most important fight of the game which was basically won if he just stayed with the team, but he eased into kill Peanut and he dies. And then the same thing kind of happened in game 5. Pace just kind of sends it into Yone melee range and dies on a really, really important fight. I don't know if it's this one. Yeah, here. Like, Pace is positioning here. He's playing super off to the side, waiting for an engage, and then he sees a W onto Yone and full sends it onto Yone, but he ends up on top of him, and his W buffer missed, and then he kind of just gets one-shot by Zeka and Viper, so his impact really isn't felt in these, like, important big fights. And there's, like, this consensus around Pace that he's a really good AD carry if his team's ahead and getting him ahead, but in games where Genji are even or losing, Pace is not up to class with other AD carries when it comes to performance. So that's my main worry. Now, as much as you can point at it, my biggest disappointment personally was Canyon. Like, if you remember Canyon, he's the guy. Don't think, like, I know Genji was on a golden road and everyone's super hyped up about, you know, Genji, golden road, yada, yada, yada. They were 1-2 down in the finals, despite having an insane, like, despite being an insanely good team. And this is when Canyon gets tested, I think, and he pulls out the champion like Kha'Zix, and like the whole momentum and like tides of the series just changes because Canyon's like taken it into his hands and you can like feel it. It's hard to put into words, but like you can feel the gravitas of a player like Canyon when it comes to the pick ban on match point. He just shows up, you know. He's got that like champ pool and that aura and like that game sense that he can play anything in any scenario to make it so they can get an advantage in draft. The thing that frustrated me about the finals is I just didn't see Canyon in these finals. I didn't see him anywhere. Like I saw his Skarner running around, but I actually think Peanut was just gapping him in these games. I don't attribute game 1 to his loss, and game 2 he played good and stuff like this, but it didn't really feel like he was there. His Skarner was good, but it didn't really feel like the Canyon of old where he like went off the script and like when Genji needed him, he just shows up. He just played Zyra and Skarner, and like his Skarner was decent. The Zyra was good one game, was bad another, and then that was it. And I'm not saying he was bad, it's just you didn't really get that clutch factor from Canyon. I don't agree with the consensus that Chovy got gapped in these finals. I think Zeka gapped him in game 4. Was it game 4? I think it was. And I think Chovy did his job. He did a lot. I don't think he got gapped mega hard. I definitely think there was a game, I think it was game 4, where he got gapped on side lane by Zeka. But I wasn't too upset with Chovy. And Lehens is an interesting one. I feel like the LCK supports, Delight and Lehens are both extremely good players. Lehens is just someone who I feel like a lot of people will struggle to rate. And I think that the reason they struggle to rate Lehens is he's not flashy. When you see Keria do a crazy play, people lose their mind. And they're like, holy fuck, Keria, PogChamp, you know? He does like a flashy play and everyone kind of like gets super involved with it. I don't see Lehens as a flashy player, but from what I know, he's so smart. He's so smart. He is the driving factor behind a lot of Genji's macro. And you'll see like he does like these weird lane swap iterations with his team where he's always covering his and then Delight started to do it. If you actually watch the LCK playoffs, I wish I actually did research on this before, but I think there's a series where Genji play up against Hammerlife in the first round where Lehens comes up with this new style of covering his top laner in the lane swaps, and then Delight started doing it against them. See how Lehens is a lone bot and then the top laner TPs and they stay together? There was this new style that Lehens was developing to cover top laner on lane swaps, and that's why Genji was so good on the lane swaps. And if you actually watch the progression of the series, Hammerlife kind of learn what they're doing, and Delight starts doing a very similar thing in the lane swap iterations. So you see how Lehens is laning alone and they TP in? They slowly broke that. Anyway, for me, the two favorites. And then obviously what I'm going to do is I'm going to slot in Hammerlife here. I do think Hammerlife should be considered a favorite. And the reason I think Hammerlife should be considered a favorite is, yes, they beat GENG, but the form that Hammerlife is in right now, I think it's hard to argue against the fact that they're going to finish top 4. If Hammerlife make a finals, you shouldn't be surprised. The only concern you have is Doran Peanut, right? Like, you can laugh at their BLG series last year. You can use the word choking. But, like, on paper, I would be doing the wrong job if I didn't say that Hammerlife can't make a world final. Because Doran, in that finals, he showed up big time. He did. His Jax was great, and he managed to kind of, like, neutralize Keen a bit. And as much as he relied on Jax a lot, and he did completely run this Camille game down. It was disgusting watching this Camille game. I don't think he was really set up for success playing Camille into Jax in the first place. Zeka's form is insane. Zeka's spring split was kind of mid, but Zeka has been Like, Zeka is in his best form I've ever seen. If you discount Worlds 2022, where he's just turned into a Super Saiyan, this is the closest thing you'll ever get to it. Like, last year, he was kind of mid last year. He was okay, but he wasn't the greatest. Spring, you didn't really feel the Zeka of old, where he starts clutching games and carrying him by himself. Zeka, on this roster, player to watch. Mega. He got Finals MVP. I think Viper maybe got a little bit robbed. But him and Viper, great form. So those are my top three. I'm going to stop going in about players too much because I'll probably do a description of players later on. But three big things about these teams. BLG, they can play through every lane. They're insanely good. They've got a rock-solid jungler who is very flexible and can be playing low econ if you need, or carry if you need. Super good for the team. Strong laners. GENG, very macro-heavy team. I think if you watch GENG's games, you'll see that they're like even against teams. They'll have really good macro. They'll trade better on sides. They'll overload on sides better. I think if you've been, I don't really like repeating myself, but I did like a lot of macro breakdowns from GENG. I don't know what the title of it was, but of how their jungle and support are always playing on the same side of the map. Like, Lehens will run out of base and follow Canyon wherever he goes, and I feel like when they use this duo, whether it's playing to Chovy's side or playing to Keen's side, they always trade better. And a team like Hammerlife, if you watch their first series against GENG, they're completely out-macroed. Hammerlife is completely dizzy around the map. Their support's bot, their jungler's top, and they're just so disjointed. It's ridiculous. Yeah, no matter what game you go to and skip, you'll always see GENG jungle support playing together. So yeah, that's their strong side no matter what. And I feel like GENG is their macro is just really good. And even if you're making a play, they will always find a way to trade even, it feels like, even if they're behind. And Hammerlife, I mean, they showed insane clutch factor, I think. I think Peanut is actually debatably the best jungler of the tournament right now. Peanut's form is super good. He basically out-jungled everyone throughout playoffs, and I think that's really impossible to deny. He out-jungled every LCK jungler in playoffs. They played against T1, they played against GENG, out-jungled them all. Yeah, and I mean, if you watch Hammerlife versus GENG, their team fighting is just the reason Hammerlife beat GENG in this finals was they had better team fighting. They did just have better team fighting. I still do think that GENG had better macro, and the way Hammerlife's macro worked was it came through brute forcing, right? Like, for example, this scenario doesn't look good for Hammerlife, does it? GENG have full control of bot side river. There's hardly any cross map. TPs are up, and Chovy can TP to match, and they have full control over mid, right? They're gonna get a free Drake here, and they're gonna go to Soul Point. But Zeka is brute forcing on Chovy and clutches it and solo kills him on side. And this is a game breaker, because now he gets top tier 1. He can push out, and now there's a threat on top tier 2, right? So in a game state where GENG is playing the map better, or not better, they have more control, I would say, over the objective. Things like this happen, where Zeka pulls out a solo kill, and then now the map's in a shamble state where Keen has to run top. You're at a threat of losing double TP if you fight this Drake, and now Hammerlife have got control because Tristana can base TP in, and look how fed Tristana is, and now they can Herald mid, and now they've got control of Drake, right? So Hammerlife don't have better macro than GENG, but they have players who can, I don't know what word other to use than clutch, right? They make things, they make magic happen, and that is the domino that they need to out-macro people. That is what they need. They force on you. And their team fights are really what you should look out for. Runners up for Worlds 2024. I think you're crazy if you don't put a team like Top Esports in here. Top Esports are a team where I will never believe in them. Like, if this was a Caedrel biased tier list, this team would not be here. This team would be here. But I'm not going to be biased because it's wrong. The reason I'm biased, and actually this would be a gift if I put them in here. The reason is I will never believe in Tian. I will just not do it. You can't tell me, Dom is the biggest Tian fan, and I will not disagree. Tian had one of the best regular seasons he's ever had in his life. Crazy good regular season. Insane. He was the most dominant jungler in the regular season, got MVP. Sure. I get that. I mean, Top Esports had a great regular season. Top Esports expectations coming to playoffs, they're going to make finals. What did they do? They didn't make finals. They lost to BLG in a 4-game series, and they got 5 gamed by Weibo, who just had this fucking disgusting-ass miracle run, because I don't know how the fuck Weibo always do it. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to make this video a bit quicker than normal. The problem with Top Esports is when you want them to show up the most, they show up the least, right? And you can see that as a great example at MSI. They lost to G2. It's kind of crazy to me still that Top Esports got 3-0'd by G2 in my head. But the main things about Top Esports is Tian looks really good, even though I don't believe him in the internationals. He is in great form. Cream has been growing a lot throughout the year. I think Dom has been... I like to watch a lot of Dom content, so if I reference Dom a lot in this for the LPL, then I apologize, but I really like to watch Dom's podcast and stuff for LPL content. There was an argument to be had where he was the best Tristana in the world at one point during the regular season, and his growth throughout spring and summer was, yeah, really good. I think the AD carry meta suited him a lot. If you remember Cream, he was this melee mid kind of guy. He was this like, I'll play Akali, I'll play this and that on OMG, Yone, Sylas, Akali. He was like a baby Zeka of sorts. He's definitely grown a lot this year. He's been playing things like Azir, even though it hasn't looked that great. But he is still that guy. And I think Tristana as a champion kind of functions similar, this might sound crazy, to an assassin-esque style. Where Tristana, if she can get a slight lead on side lane, she can really take over side lanes and be like an assassin-y threat champ. So I think that kind of fits in his wheelhouse quite nicely. But yeah, I think Cream's been growing a lot. 369 is the 369 that you all remember. He's going to play tanks and Renekton. He has been playing a few carries in here, but I mean, that is 369 from JDG. Anyway, 369, insane tank player. And then you have Jakilov. And I think Mako is honestly one of the best supports in the world, easily. Easily one of the best supports in the world. Great engaged support player. And he has Jakilov. That's the roster. You know the roster. I've run through it. Jakilov is like, I don't know, Jakilov's really good AD carry, but if you asked me to rate AD carries from the 4 Worlds teams, I would have Jakilov as the worst, actually. I haven't really felt like watching Jakilov that... I feel like Light is insanely good. I think Gala is insanely good, and I think Elk is insanely good, but I wouldn't put Jakilov above any of those 3 players right now. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's the sour taste of the recent playoffs games. It's just the reliability of Jakilov just doesn't look stable enough for me, I suppose. But yeah, I think it's hard to deny that Top Esports aren't runners-up. But I do think if there's any team to disappoint, again, it's Top Esports. I mean, they always seem to find a way. Tien and Jakilov always seem to find a way to rock up and fail to meet expectations, which, yeah. You can make the arguments of, like, Faker's never failed to make top 4 at Worlds for 7 Worlds in a row. I get it. That means that he should be top 4. And you can say Weibo were World Finalist last year, but obviously completely different. Who would be in my runners-up? I think Top Esports is a pretty safe assumption. Oh yeah, by the way, LNG have Scout, yeah. Top 8, I'm going to put G2. I think G2 will make it to top 8 this year. I do. And I think the best way to phrase this is, I think, you and I will be disappointed if G2 do not make it to top 8. I don't care that, obviously, you have one big argument, and that is that EU has looked bad this year. Sure. And G2 has been winning championships where they've looked weaker than teams, and the teams have kind of gifted them wins. I appreciate that. I do also agree with the idea that G2 has good mid to late game macro, and that is a factor as to why they came back in some of the games where the teams against them had big leads. So as much as these deficits were throws, they did fight their way back in. The thing is with G2 is you can argue... It's so easy to slam the argument that Europe sucks and they were gifted wins. Like, that argument is so easy to gift. But I think if you look at their year... And also, by the way, the argument that they won 4 titles this year and 3 titles last year is useless. You can't argue that just because they won more titles this year that they're a better team. That one sucks. That argument is trash. I still think G2, after watching them all last year and this year, I think G2 going into Worlds last year actually looked stronger than they did. I actually, G2 looked a lot stronger going into Worlds last year than they did this year because of how decisive their wins were, you know, and how much it just felt like they were gapping opponents individually as well. I don't know. The main thing for me for G2 is the thing that they lack the most, I think, is Dylan and Caps, to me, the coach of G2 and Caps. They always approach internationals with different takes, and they like to think outside the box. But the thing that's been lacking for me to G2 is the only thinking they've done outside the box. Like, I think I did this through my major rundown, but they were the first teams to come out with all these random plays. But it's kind of like their creativity just dropped off into summer. I don't know. They stopped lane swapping. There wasn't too many new picks. They played Gwen jungle once and it looked fucking trash. And they never really went back to it. And as much as I can watch their champions queue yesterday and the day before when I've been watching them play in solo queue and stuff, and they're playing Sion mid, I don't really know how much of that is going to work at internationals. My worry is that, are they really going to show up to Worlds and play stock standard and just lose? Or are they like Are they saving things? Is there things that we don't know? Because G2 as a team have a work ethic that's really interesting. They have like a very strict schedule and a very strict work ethic, and they keep a very tight circle on their prep and how operations work, and you know, things go through checks and stuff, and they have like all this staff around them, like Roman and performance coaches, and they're drilled to win a title from the start of day one. From day one of the year, they are drilled into winning a title, and they are held accountable for everything they do. If you want to call it systems, they have systems, and I feel like obviously G2 systems work. The only evidence you have to go off from internationals is they rocked up to MSI, they almost beat T1, and they beat Top Esports. I think Caps was a bit... I know Caps was MVP of the year, and I think Caps is an incredible player. I was a little bit disappointed in Caps' adjustment to like the AD mid-meta. I thought that Caps would be like Chovy, in a way. Because I even scrimmed against Caps in 2018, and I laned against his Draven mid, and it was fucking annoying. I laid against his Kog'Maw mid, his Draven mid, everything. And his Zeri didn't look that good. His Zeri looked kind of bad, and he didn't really run away with the AD meta as much as I would have wanted him to, you know? He played Corki, Zitr, I don't have a problem with that. I would have wanted him to do something similar like Chovy, in my opinion, and play things like Draven and Lucian in mid, and just kind of like lane gap everyone. I think towards the end of the year, Caps was still gapping everyone, but when I think of old Caps heading internationals, it just feels like he's an insane tier above. So those are my worries for G2. Those are my worries for G2. Where's the fire? Where's the creativity? Where's the new things? I hope that they're gonna rock up to international and prove me wrong by showing all these new things. But I'm gonna keep them in top 8. I think their mid to late game play is the best in Europe, despite their early games being bad. Their confidence sounds like it's on the right track, and I think G2's always kind of struggled to perform, I don't know if it's struggled to perform on stage, but translate successes in practice against teams to important stage matches. It's pathetic that they lost to NRG, and then they're showing against T1 the second time was also pathetic. So is this top 8 guess coming from faith, or is it coming from actual analysis, Marc? I don't know. I guess the best way to look at it is, would G2 beat the 4th seeds in top 8, or are they low expectations? What are my expectations for G2? If the thing is, the way I'm looking at it is, if G2 doesn't make top 8, I am disappointed. I think that is disappointing. But on the other side, that is stemming from me being a European representative, right? That is definitely like a lot of that coming from, is my region really that bad? But on paper, if you take bias away, is G2 making top 8? Very close, I think. G2 would have to beat LNG or Weibo or T1, basically, which are the teams you'd have to debate. I'll leave them in here for now and then move on. And then maybe if we think about other teams, we'll move them down or keep them there. 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves, I think, are the worst team from the major regions at the tournament. I'll put good luck. I don't think they have any expectations. I think, obviously, the best player on the team is Quid. I think Quid's great, but I think they have some of the worst. Now, I don't want this to be offensive to the players if they're listening to this, but they definitely have some of the worst players from major regions. Like, for example, I think Sniper is not looking great. If coming into an international comparatively to domestic play, I think Ayla is going to struggle. So I think overall 100 Thieves, I think just good luck, have fun. I don't really want to sit here and flame them. I'm not trying to be mean to them. I'm just being like honest. I think their side lanes are going to struggle a lot. Like, their side lanes are going to get blasted at this tournament, I think. Quid will probably be okay, but I don't expect anything from 100 Thieves. If 100 Thieves, I actually think my expectation for 100 Thieves is get out of play-ins. If they don't get out of play-ins, I think that's a disappointment. But if they get out of play-ins, I think that's already good. Maybe they can make an upset in Swiss. I expect them to go 0-3 in Swiss. I think they should lose to every opponent above them. So yeah, no expectation for 100 Thieves, really. Good luck, have fun. A lot of their players are debuting. Well, not a lot of them. A couple of their players are debuting on internationals. I think Sniper is a player that I want to keep my eye on over the next few years as he grows. So hopefully he has a good showing. And obviously I think they're just a fun team to watch, you know. So yeah, let's see. I also think Mad Lions is in that realm as well. As much as they have El Yoya, I think for me, Mad Lions, good luck. I don't think there's really any expectations. Get out of play-ins. I would love that. I think the disappointment, like, I would be extremely upset if Mad Lions don't get out of play-ins, but yeah, they'll cause some upsets, I think, maybe here or there. It wouldn't surprise me that in the best of 3 elimination against maybe one of the major region teams, they somehow take a game off them in a crazy fashion if they get to the Swiss stage. But I'm not going to sit here and flame any of their players, but a lot of them, I have extremely low expectations from their players. I think Mirwin, go crazy with the champ pool, have fun. Frescoe, Supa, Alvaro, pull something out, put everything on the table, learn a lot. I hope they get good scrims. I know that they beat G2. I appreciate that they like... The thing is, Mad Lions' trajectory is just fucked up, right? Finals, 7th, beat G2 despite scraping season finals, make Worlds from 1 best of 5. You know, the team's just super hit or miss. That alongside with the fact that I think a lot of their wins stem from catching people off guard a lot. I think their individual skill level is not on par with all of the teams above them. I think, like, for example, I think Mad Lions versus PSG, I would favor PSG. I think PSG is a super strong team that people will underrate going into this tournament. And so I think that Mad Lions is just in the good luck tier, right? Like I hope for the players' sake they get good scrims, they have fun, and they don't really pressure themselves too much. If Mad Lions do anything other than get out of play-ins, I think that's insane. If Mad Lions if Mad Lions even win 2 games or get 2 sets in Swiss stage, that's crazy to me. I think Mad Lions having 2 sets and being on like a promotion match top 8 is already mind-blowing whether they win it or not. D plus Kia. My favorite team in the tournament. My favorite team. I actually think D plus Kia is a lot stronger than people give them credit for. I do. I think they are. I think that they're a lot stronger than people give them credit for. I think that, now this take might be crazy, but I think tier lists are boring without crazy takes. D plus was held back by their mid-jungle. If D plus mid-jungle, like for example, peak DK contests GENG. You can't disagree with that. Peak DK can contest GENG. That's a fact. They can. You know it, I know it. They can't beat them on the map. DK's macro will forever be worse than GENG. GENG's map movements are good. But if DK in form, with confidence, with good drafts, can beat GENG. That's a fact. And that's already happened. Because they almost beat them in spring. And I'm not holding on to Cope here because the game quality from DK in that series was incredible. Why was the game quality good, chat? What was it? It was Lucid. Lucid showed up to that series big time, and Lee Sin was obviously like a mega pick for him. But in my opinion, Lucid showed up to that series and had a great series. Oh yeah, he had a mega series versus KT as well. I think Lucid showed up quite heavily in spring playoffs. It was these 2 series here. This series we don't talk about too much. The D plus Kia versus T1. That's just mental block. Lucid, when he's in form, is super talented mechanically player. He's just a little bit silly. Okay, he's just a little bit silly. He's got the young player syndrome, you know, where he just kind of like gets really cocky or doesn't really know where to be sometimes. That tied along the fact that Showmaker, I think, was super disappointing this year. I'm just going to say it. I fucking love Showmaker, but I think this year for Showmaker was a horror. It was just such a horror year for Showmaker. He just couldn't make the AD carry meta work. He was just bad at it. His Tristana was good. Everything else was fucking bad. He couldn't make this meta happen. He just couldn't do it. So he had his own style, which wasn't really optimal. But I think, and I am convinced, and you could see it in their series versus T1. You could see it. You could see it. When their mid-jungle is locked in, I think this series, even though T1 went to 5 games in T+, this was Showmaker's best performance of the year, this series, I think. Even though they lost some of these games. This was Showmaker of old. And you could see it. He was really back in the driver's seat. I know you're going to think of the flashes and the mechanical misplays in that series. I know, okay? Don't get sucked into the silly plays, okay? Don't get sucked into the silly plays. There was a lot of silly plays, I know. There was missed skill shots, there was flashes on themselves and all that stuff. But in essence, you could see like the old signs of Showmaker, in my opinion. And like he was kind of crawling his way back. I'm slightly biased to Damwon, and I'm going to try and put that bias aside. But overall, I think their side laners are very strong coming into Worlds. I think Moham has grown a lot with this roster, and he's given them everything they need. I think him and Aiming have been growing together well. And Damwon has this playstyle where their fallback option is Aiming will carry. If King and Showmaker do find that they're losing lanes or they're struggling a bit too much. But I think Aiming's one of the best AD carries of this tournament as well. So DK is set up for success, I think, at this international. Are DK top 8 or are they runners-up? Do I actually believe DK could make top 4? Degenerate Caedrel, this is what it would look like. My tier list right now. But I think, objectively speaking, this would be subjective. This is what my tier list would look like. And I actually strongly believe that at this World Championship, DK could pull off a top 4. I actually believe it. They have the caliber of players to do it. They have the momentum behind them. They have the confidence behind them. They have the form that they've shown. They've peaked at the very last second. And I mean last second. They were losing to FearX fucking 1 month ago, they were losing to Fear X and having to defend their base against an Elder Dragon, 4 Infernal Soul, or they would get 2-0'd by Fear X, okay? This is how far we've come, all right? That's how bad it was. The growth over that time has been great. I mean, even then, they lost to DK in the playoffs. They just got absolutely bodied. Showmaker looked completely dizzy some of these games. But yeah, the turnaround, I am ye of high faith. So, do I do a degenerate tier list or do I do an objective tier list? I think objectively, I think we'll keep them above G2, but in top 8 tier. I'm going to go into my dark horse quickly, if that's okay. And I don't mean dark horse is below top 8, which I dislike the idea of. But I think that for me, if you watch the LPL and the LCK this year, I think there is only one dark horse. Actually, there's 2 dark horses, now that I think about it. The first dark horse that I want to talk about is Weibo. I actually think it looks odd because Weibo is below top 8, but ignore that. It's not that they're worse, it's just that they're in a different tier, where I think Weibo is just, for some reason, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just Xiaohu and Light are just addicted to roller coaster or some shit, but they'll show up on days, they'll 5-game LNG and top esports and make a finals, and then they'll show up on days and they'll get slammed by LNG and not even look like they're competing. Dark Horse to me is a team that's just unpredictable, and I think Weibo is just unpredictable. The problem is, I was talking to Dom, and I like to talk to Dom every now and then about LPL teams. And we were talking about Weibo Gaming. I think around the time, I'm gonna say around the time they beat LNG the first time. And we were talking about it. And Weibo, we thought Weibo was like a really good team. Like Tarzan looked like one of the most incredible junglers in the entire league. And the way they were playing jungle bot was so good. It was so good. And Tarzan for me is a player who has always been very... his pathing is super good. He's always at the right place at the right time. He mostly does lean towards bot, in my opinion. But you could see it in the finals. Their bot play was very good, right? This is kind of like the way I see Weibo is Xiaohu. This series we won't talk about Xiaohu, but they're like mid to bot, they're jungle to bot, they're cover around bot, their bot play, their bot dive, like, and Light being probably the most underrated and possibly one of the best AD carries in the tournament, stems to me that if this team gets a good game state, if they can play the game state well, and they can get a good bot 3v3, and they can start snowballing their leads towards mid-top with the experience of Xiaohu, I think this team could be a dark horse, you know. The only problem and the only tendency that this team has is they just over-index a little bit too hard to the points where if it doesn't work, they will double down. If it doesn't work still, they will triple down, and then they will quadra double down. And they will keep going there to make it work until they slowly realize that they've wasted too much time to make it happen, and now they're actually behind. And this was actually quite a common trend from Weibo, where they do make these forceful plays around certain lanes, mostly bot, and they keep doubling down on these lanes to make them, to essentially force it to work. And if it doesn't work, then it backfires quite heavily because of how like kill tempo to play around bot. And that can actually make their games collapse. That's one of the trends I see from Weibo. And I feel like in that sense, they do become quote-unquote predictable. But you can even see it when they swap their bot lane top. Tarzan's there, right? I know there's a grub spawn, but wherever their bot lane normally is, from my perspective, Tarzan is kind of with the bot lane. This is a Weibo Gaming game 1, where they just got solo killed in bot and mid, and jungle is being put behind because of this, right? Because Wei will just perma spot him and keep him locked in his jungle. But this is also a Weibo who just beat LNG in a game 5 with Tarzan on Nidalee, with their playstyle working, with making sure their bot lane can get ahead, with like a consistent game state where they actually don't overuse their tempo and over-index to the point where Tarzan falls behind in minions because he's losing his top camps to this play. With Weibo snowballing well through bot to move their bot lane around the map to then take over the map and then play the map well and move to top and stay together. This is a game state where Weibo stabilizes the game and plays the 3v3 better. And they play the map better and everything looks great. This is a Weibo who, against top esports, did a very similar thing. Where they rock up against them in the semifinals in a high-pressure game state, where they've got themselves playing through bot, covering bot, and getting the game in a winning position, and not dropping tempo around the map doing so, where they can mid the bot, and they can bridge Xiaohu down, and they can force and keep them under. Why can they play the game like this? Well, because I think Weibo's bot lane is incredibly good. They are. Crisp and Light are a really good bot lane. And Tarzan is a really good jungler at pathing into bot and playing around bot lane. The problem is, you have a game where they rock against BLG, they get outclassed individually in lane, and then something like this happens, where the game 2 that I talked about just a second ago, the main thing to look at here is, obviously, I've been to this before, is like, look at jungle situation, right? Tarzan's in a great state. And then look what he does when he's playing bot again. He comes bot, plays bot, loses his blue, loses his grump, loses his fucking top side. Breathe can't play, and what did they get bot? They got nothing. They got nothing. Bin got plates, and now look at jungle state. Wei gets caught up, and now jungle's actually down. Wei's level 9, Tarzan's level 8. He's even in gold despite 2 kills, and now he's lost like his whole topside camps, right? So they over-indexed so hard, the jungle fell behind. And they're actually losing the game from pressuring too hard. And this is Weibo's issue. They play almost flawlessly. So they go from game states to getting 2v2 killed, to fucking dropping their tempo too hard, and then falling behind. So for me, they're a dark horse, because I don't know which version's going to happen. I think they could easily do this against any of these 3 teams at least. But I also think that Weibo could lose to Fnatic. Easy. Like, easy. They could index bot, kill tempo, tops lost, mid dies 1v1, game's over. So for me, I'm not sure. I think you can... This is the problem. And the reason I'm putting them here is because I can see... You can pinpoint the LNG Top Esports series and you can say they can make top 8 and they can be runners-up. Sure. Maybe runners-up is a bit too far. And I'm not putting them in dark horse because I think that they're worse than these teams. I think Weibo is better than G2. This tier... Maybe I should put this tier above top 8 actually because it looks quite strange. I don't know, this dark horse tier, it doesn't really fit in the tier list. It's kind of like its own piece. It's like a small off section that doesn't relate to strength based on their standing. It's just like where something random's gonna happen. I don't know where to put them. Anyway, the second dark horse and the team, I'm putting this team in my tier list because I don't know enough about them, but I spoke to Molecule a bit and apparently PSG's only really gotten better. Now, the reason I put PSG in dark horse is for a different reason. Because, now, listen, this is why I think it's important that people watch videos rather than look at screenshots, because I'm trying to give explanation to everything, okay? The reason I put PSG here is because a different reason for dark horse. My definition of dark horse for PSG is I think this team could make top 8 randomly. I think there is a world where PSG gets good draws and somehow gets into top 8. Somehow. I think there's a world where Weibo makes it the top 4, okay? But I think PSG can make the top 8. Do you remember this? And this is what I'm basing my assumptions off. Can we all just did we all forget that this happened? That BLG and PSG went to 5 games? Did we all forget that? And I know that they had Shun, and I know that BLG maybe didn't have the best form here, right? They lost to GENG 3-1 in the finals. But the fact that PSG can do that is crazy. And the fact that they also beat FlyQuest and they almost beat BLG, and I was speaking to Molecule a bit about PSG, and his opinion, and the thing that swung it for me to put them in dark horse here rather than low expectations, is because supposedly PSG's only gotten better apparently. Apparently they've gotten stronger as a team. And you can say, well, teams are supposed to get stronger throughout the summer anyway because they're supposed to be together longer. The problem, the thing that I hate about the argument, I think the argument that because you're together longer, it means you're better, I think that argument's just fucking trash. It's so it doesn't really have any foundation. Okay, so then I'll take that argument and I'll extrapolate. So you're telling me that the peak gameplay of a region is the final series that they play. And you can agree with that, but also what you're going to look at EU and then look at the season finals and shit and say that this is the peak of what the fucking region is. You're going to look at that DKT1 series and you're going to say that's what the peak of their form is. No, it's not. That's completely untrue. The peak of their form is not the end of the year games. You're going to look at these 2 series and tell me this is like the best form of T1 because it's the end of the year? No, it's not. Apparently they've gotten stronger as a team rather than just being better overall. So I think that my dark horse category arguments are, and I don't have much analysis on PSG, so I apologize for that. My dark horse categories are that I think Weibo could make a top 4 run out of nowhere. And I think that PSG could upset and make top 8 over an LPR or an LCK team. That's the two things that I see. That's my expectation that could happen. So that's what I'm basing the tier list on. You're saying that PSG or Weibo could win the tournament? No. I don't think these 2 teams could win the tournament. No chance. Maybe I should change the label of dark horse then. Yeah, Blue Shell. I like Blue Shell. I'm gonna piss a lot of people off. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. I think I shouldn't do GAM though. I don't really know enough about GAM. Now, I didn't co-stream all of the LCS, okay? I will caveat that. I didn't also co-stream all of the LPL, but I covered all of the LPL games that were playoffs plus top-tier games. So the things that I didn't watch in LPL were the summer season nights phase, where the top teams played against the bottom teams in groups. So I did miss a few of that. But with LCS, I watched... what did I watch from LCS? I watched spring playoffs and summer playoffs. I think I watched one regular season weekend as well. So this is what my assumption is based off of, okay? If you bring me a week 2 argument, fuck do I know. Team Liquid are kind of like they've kind of done the Gen G in a way, where it's like, wow, our regular season is so good. Look how good we are in playoffs. Fuck, we lost the finals. Now no one knows what to assume from us, right? But from what I observed from watching Team Liquid is, I think Appa and Yeon have gotten a lot better from last year. My biggest criticism from them was that they are bad carries. Fact. And I always saw Team Liquid as this Core JJ and Impact are like the two stumps of the table, and they can hold a lot of weight, you know? But they were kind of holding like a very weak table, you know? And they can hold much more. They really can. They were like these two rocks on side lane where you have one person who is extremely knowledgeable about the game and can play a lot of matchups in a lot of different ways you need him to. And he even showed a lot of carry performances as well. And you have another rock in the bot lane support who is extremely vocal, extremely smart about the game, and knows how to win you a game. So you have these two pillars. All you need to do is fill the rest in with strengths. I think got slammed in the finals. I think he got outperformed by Inspired quite hard. They went to 5 games and 4 games, right? So Team Liquid and FlyQuest were like pretty fist on fist. The series, as far as I can remember it, is jungle situation was just a horror. Like, I remember game 1, I think lost his Raptor respawn, and then jungle snowballed out of control. Lilia based, and then Lilia took his Raptor respawn here, and then jungle was in a position where he's like down in XP, sweating for level 5, pushed off of grubs from top push, and then Inspired just kind of sat there power farming his way out through the game, even though lanes were not great. I mean, this guy has Leander, he's at 14 minutes and he's 1k gold up, slowly bleeding out, and FlyQuest are up 600 gold because of him, even though they're losing lanes. It was right here, I think, is where the game was lost. Because jungle is in not that bad a position, right? Level 9 to level 8, he's a level down, he's playing tank into Lilia, he's 500 gold down, it sucks. But what ends up happening is shows bot, flash W's Leona for no reason. Leona just kind of walks away, and now pay attention to what loses for this. He loses his blue, he loses his grump. So watch Lilia gold and XP. While they're doing nothing bot, like they're Maokai ulting on them bot, and this is the perfect thing for Inspired, right? His laners can just tank the gank, you know? Like his laners take the ganks while he just power farms. They get nothing in bot, I believe. Lilia takes his whole top side, then Maokai comes out of base, runs top, question mark pinks his own top camps, runs all the way back around into bot, and right-clicks enemy blue buff, and says, I have no camps, we need to fight their bot camps. Then proceeds to die on the bot camps, and he has gone from a 1-level deficit to a 3-level deficit. Well, 2-level deficit, soon to be 3 when Lilia clears all her bot camps. The only reason he leveled up there was because he stole the blue buff. He's 3 levels down if Lilia gets all these camps bot side. The only reason he got the 2-level down at that point was because he stole the blue. And now the position is in a game state where no matter what happened in the lanes, the game is absolutely lost, right? I definitely think there was a few jungle hiccups in the finals where I'm not sure if he felt forced to, but he definitely overforced game states. But the matchup definitely does suck. Maokai and Lilia as a matchup, like, I mean, Maokai can be good against Lilia because Lilia relies on move speed a lot. That's why Lilia is picked into Italy, because she can match the clear. But Maokai locks her down quite easily. So, few things. Two things. Their pillars are insane of Team Liquid. The carries are insane of Team Liquid. They had an incredibly good summer split. They fucking lost the finals. Even he played mirror matchup back, right, where did get CS leads versus Inspired, but they were outclassed as a team. But obviously they played incredibly good throughout the regular season and the playoffs, from what I understand. The sad thing is I can't really I didn't watch these games. I'm just going off of community perception, and from my perspective, from reading Reddit, watching videos about the LCS and talking to LCS casters, everyone was sold on Team Liquid. And I think I remember watching this 100 Thieves series and also being sold on Team Liquid because they had really solid play. I remember this Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves series really well. It was this game where I started to believe in Team Liquid. I think this is the game where Appa single-handedly kept Kun on the tower and carried the game. My mistake. I thought it was game 1. This is a game where Appa kind of showed up everywhere, and he was being focused quite hard. He was 0-2, and the game looked great for 100 Thieves because Smolder is extremely accelerated. But yeah, they make bot plays happen. And they make bot plays happen again and again and again and again. They were insanely proactive. They were always swapping well. The lane assignments here were good. Their team fighting was good. I really got sold into it. But yeah, their finals was quite disappointing. Yeah, I don't think this team will make top 8 from what I've seen. Obviously, the sentiment of their regular season was really good. How do they play as a team though, Marc? They do play a similar style in the sense they play heavy bot. Is like a low econ jungler as well. When I was watching their games, I didn't see much mid play. Appa was quite self-sufficient. If anything, Appa was the one who was being played on, if that makes sense. But in my head, you guys are saying that they're a mid-centric team. In my head, they're a bot-centric team. And just plays Maokai Sejuani and plays around bot. Isn't that just their playstyle? Which is like, this is a very classic Western playstyle. You're basing it off of playoffs. If you did the same for G2, they also wouldn't be top 8. I mean, you're right, yeah. Actually, it would be... Yeah, you're right. Kind of. You're kind of right. I mean, on paper, you're kind of right. But G2, like, they were winning games, right? TL's history of showing up is beating Fnatic this year, and that's about it. Whereas G2's history is a lot more reliable internationally, even this year. Is the only, like, counter-argument. They lost to NRG. Yeah, this tier list is hard. I wonder how teams rate these teams. I think, like, a very easy thing to do, and the reason that I'm not speeding this tier list up, is you can just do this, right? Like, that is not hard. I think anyone can do that. You can just say the Wests looked pretty bad. Maybe TL could make top 8 or G2, and that's it. Cum si, cum sa, fucking book close. Even though FlyQuest beat TL, that's it. And that's why I'm taking my time here a bit, because I want to do it justice enough, because I feel like a lot of people can just make an easy tier list and just do that. Maybe put LNG top 8, T1 probably makes top 8, and then wrap up the video, I guess, right? I mean, we could just end the video right there. I'm going to come back to LCS to do some VOD reviews. I'm going to hold off on FlyQuest and Team Liquid. I think I'm going to do the rest, and then we're going to watch some LCS games, and then we're going to come back and finish it. Let's do T1 real quick. Right, this is the weakest version of T1. This is the third time this team's been together in International. They did 22, 23, and another in 24. This is the weakest iteration of T1 with Zeus, Owner, Keria, Faker, and Guma I've ever seen. Like, even last year when Faker had his wrist problems, the turnaround of Faker coming back and their series versus KT was insane. But for me, T1, like, the problem with last year is Faker took a break, right? And T1 were at rock bottom without him. And everyone's expectations were kind of low. Faker came back, insane team, beat KT, who were supposed to win the split. Like, KT were fucking nuts. Like, I think people forget how good KT was. KT got slept on last year, because they chose T1, lost to T1, and then they drew JDG in the first round and lost to JDG. So I think people forget, actually, like, KT was insane last year. So when T1 beat KT, that was nuts. Whereas this year, I mean, they were one game away from missing Worlds, right? So my opinion on T1 is this. I think Zeus and Guma, really good players. I think Zeus is one of the best tops of the tournament. Guma is pretty reliable. I think any meta he'll be fine, but I think Guma definitely favored in like caster AD meta / Kalistas. I think Faker's been really underwhelming. Great spring split, pretty bad summer split, pretty bad playoffs. I don't want to attribute it all to the meta. I feel like there's probably a lot of problems that you can attribute to, like the hand problems, the never taking a break, the meta, all this stuff. But Faker overall, I mean, basically the way that you draft against T1 is you ban Azir on any side. And then, yeah, Faker plays no Azir and he's in a rough spot. His Yone didn't look great. He tried things here and there. The Nessus was bad. The Caitlyn mid didn't work because he lost level 1. And he's been trying to find ways around it. But, yeah. History, the funny thing about T1 is, if you objectively look at their skill level, they are looking bad. But I think they're looking good enough that if they make top 8, that's expected, okay? So I'm going to be very careful with my words here so you understand what I'm saying. I think T1 should make top 8. That is no question. They're bad domestically, but they're not bad enough that they shouldn't make top 8. However, do I think T1 will make top 4 at this tournament? No, I don't. And the reason I say that is because their form right now, if they made top 4 at the tournament, I would be impressed. I would say, fuck, hell yeah, T1's turned it around. And I think you're doing a disjustice to the narrative of T1 and their story and the, not miracle, but how well they've done if they make top 4 by saying that they should make top 4, because they shouldn't. To me, T1 should make top 8. But I want people to realize that if this team makes top 4 with the form that they're in right now, that's impressive. That's really impressive. And they should celebrate that. And if they do go on to win Worlds like they did last year, that should tell you even more how crazy this story is. T1 is not expected to win this tournament. T1 is not expected to make top 4. T1 would lose to GENG and Humble Life right now any day of the week. That would happen. Maybe they would beat top esports. Maybe. But if they do beat top esports and they do make top 4, that should be celebrated if you're a T1 fan. You shouldn't sit there and say they should make top 4 and then be disappointed if they don't, because they're not in good form. Expectations are not good for T1 right now. They have 2 good players. Owner had a pretty bad playoffs. Owner looked like he was on a different planet half of these playoffs. And he was getting out-jungled by most of the junglers. And in the regionals as well. Faker's lane phase was weak. Their mid-jungle is struggling a lot. Zeus and Gumayushi are doing so much heavy lifting to actually win these team games. Mostly Zeus, I would say, in the regional qualifier, and more so like Gumayushi in the playoffs. But I mean, in the playoffs, the drafting from T1 was really odd. Like, they slowly started to realize Ziggs was OP when GENG had like the Ziggs era. And then Gumayushi was essentially playing games where he was drafted up against what? He was playing Ashe against Vladimir, Vi, Yone, Ziggs, Rakan. He right-clicks into a fight one time and gets instantly one-popped. So T1's drafting was just kind of strange to the point where, I mean, Gumayushi wasn't really given much to work with. It was either first pick Ziggs buddy or get one-shot by their whole comp. Because T1 couldn't play the style. Faker's Yone wasn't really up to par. And so the Yone pick was just strong for Zeus, I think. It was a Zeus pick, and it was a big reason why T1's even here in the first place. Like, T1, you have to understand, and I'm not trying to do this in a toxic way, I say this from like a full analytical standpoint. They scraped their way into Worlds. Barely. They had 3 chances to make Worlds, okay? If they won this series, they'd make Worlds. If they won this series, they'd make Worlds. If they won this series, they'd make the Worlds. It was one game. They did the last second. Now, I think that there is counter arguments where you can say that the meta is changing to a mage meta, and that will benefit T1. But like I said, I have been mentioning meta here and there, and I am hopeful slightly for some teams on meta. And I do think that the meta will be a bit better for T1, for sure, because I think anything other than this meta right now for Faker is needed. Like, Faker back on an Orianna meta, he's going to be great. If Orianna, Azir, Victor, fucking Syndra, anything like that, Faker will be happy. Yes, you're right. This meta wasn't great to Faker, but obviously, like, if Orianna's meta again, he will be a happy boy, right? Overall, I expect T1 to make top 8. I expect Zeus to be a big driving force in this tournament, because I think the top meta with the Cannon and the other nerf, what other fucking nerf was it? Rumble? Cannon Rumble nerf. As much as it hurts a player like Zeus, I think Zeus's best champ is Gnar. He is a very big Gnar player. And I think that champions like Camille and champions like Yone can be played if Renekton is down. That's the one worry I have for Zeus though, Renekton. He doesn't play much Renekton. It's funny how LPL tops struggle with Rumble, which is a very LCK style champion. And LCK top struggle with Renekton in a way. And it's a very LPL style champion. So I wonder what Renekton Prio is going to look like at this tournament. I really do wonder what Renekton Prio is going to look like. K'Sante will be a big pick, but yeah. And yeah, we'll talk about Keria a bit. Keria, for me, I think Keria is super talented. He is super talented. He's always been, to me, like the mechanical god tier player. And I feel like Keria is a player where... Okay, let me try and describe support role to you to try and give you an analogy what I think of Keria. Okay? If I give nothing to my support, resources-wise in draft, and I give them no counter pick, and I make them blind pick a really weak laning champion, how much can they squeeze out of that game for me to be useful, okay? And I think Keria squeezes less than most support, not most, by the top tier supports this tournament. Like, I think Delight, Lehens, you can let them get counter picked like fuck with Alistar or Rel, they'll squeeze a little bit more than Keria. But Keria is the kind of guy where if you sacrifice a bit of your draft or your game and you give him resources, he will squeeze more out of the resources he's given and perform better than players like Delight and Lehens. That's why Keria is a very weird player to rate, because right now the meta is give support very little resources in draft other than Braum, whereas last year support was give a lot of resources to support in draft and he can squeeze more out. Similar to the year before. Give support resources. How much can your support squeeze with those resources? I think if you give Delight and Lehens counterpick support in a meta where, hypothetically, anything is possible, they will do less than Keria. I think Keria will punish that lane harder and play better and have a wider champion pool to pull off more successes. I just don't think Keria is better than Delight Lehens on when it comes to having no resources. If you give him nothing, you just leave him out to dry, pick fucking Leona Rel, and just fall behind and flash in and do an engage. That's where Keria struggles, I think. And right now, the way the year has gone, that playstyle is the playstyle. You can't... The craziest counter pick you get in support these days is Alistar into Rel, Braum into Leona Nautilus, and maybe you get a Renata game. That's it. That's it. And you can see it in their match history when, you know, they go up against T1 and they play Kate and Lux. You can see it, you know? You can... Guma Keria are like these... They're like these fucking really big, angry bulls that want to play fucking insane laners, but they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to. It's just not the way the game works. It isn't. They want to play Nila Senna. They want to play Caitlyn Lux. They want to play some fucking Draven lanes. You can't. You're not allowed. I know you can squeeze from a rock when it comes to like getting counter picks, but you're not allowed to do that now. You pick Jhin, you pick an engage support, you shut the fuck up, and you play the game. And sadly, that's the way bot lane works right now. And as much as you can play around bot lane, and bot lane can get fed and AD can become strong, it's not a 2v2 isolation meta anymore. It's not a cover lane. It's a dive lane, stack lane, swap lane, avoid bot lane, play for objectives. Pick engage support, get level 3, and go in. And that's not Keria's bread and butter. And that's why I think Keria lags behind. So yeah, I think T1, top 8, expected. Top 4, impressive. Win Worlds, mind-blowing. Okay? Fnatic, I think you can't really change their position in the tier list. I think they are a mid-tier team. That's it. That's just how it goes. I think if Fnatic make top 8, that's crazy. If Fnatic gets smashed in Swiss stage, that's disappointing. At least win a game. At least win some series. I'm not going to put them in good luck tier because I actually think that they can be competitive. I've seen versions and iterations of Fnatic where they can win a game. I really am convinced. And they can win a series. I think they've got it in them. But if Fnatic was like 10% better, they would have won a title this year. And they would have like... The narrative would shift, right? Winning against any of these teams for Fnatic would be great. PSG maybe not included, obviously context there. But winning against any of the teams above them is fantastic. Losing against any of these teams is pathetic. And I think that's why they're just mid, right? They've got good early games. Razork, best Western jungler tournament, maybe next to Inspired. Humanoid, clutch Worlds player, maybe. Noah Jun, I've seen high highs, I've seen low lows. I definitely think Noah, remember when he left with the MSI thing, confidence dropped. He's gotten better. Jun, I remember Jun when he first came into the league, his mechanics were on fucking point. He was incredible. But will Fnatic just show up and fucking crumble and burn? Probably. Will Fnatic make top 8? Probably not. I'm just going to leave Fnatic in mid tier. I don't think there's much more to say. I think I would be surprised if anyone in the world has Fnatic above or below any of these teams. I think they were probably in everyone's tier list about here. That's it. That's about it. They're about like the mid of the mids. It's just annoying, you know? I just think if they just had better mid to late games and they stopped fucking trolling half these games, they would actually be regarded as a strong team. But it's just, that is a blocker. It is just the biggest blocker ever. They're a decent team. I think they're like a very heavy mid-jungle dependent team. Like if Humanoid and Razork are having a good game, they'll win the early game heavily. It's just, and Humanoid is always regarded as this like insanely smart player on sides. And as much as they might have good side lane gameplay, their team play is fucking horrendous. It's not that I think PSG is, I think, okay, the best way, I think PSG has higher chance of beating a team above them than Fnatic, I guess, is my expectation. But the worst part about my take here is I don't know enough about PSG to be 100% certain about that. But I don't want to put PSG in mid-tier because what I've seen from them this year at internationals, I think they're actually quite a scary team. So I put them in blue shell. I think if you want the basic standardized tier list, that's sure. But I'm just kind of going on a limb here and making a guess that maybe PSG will do some damage this tournament. The problem is, I feel like there's two blue shells here. This is blue shell for top 4. This is blue shell for like a random top 8 run. All right, this tier list, I'm kind of happy with it so far. I'm like VOD reviewing this tier list. I'm looking at this though. I'm fucking... Basically what I'm saying there is top esports are the 4th best team in the world. I think that's correct though, right? The problem is I'm trusting Tian, yeah. Should I be slightly biased in this tier list? And just have like gut feeling and just do that? Man, I'm convinced. I'm convinced top esports are going to fuck it up. Yeah, let's do a little bit of Caedrel flavor. Okay, I'm not going to do a lot of Caedrel flavor. It's my tier list, okay? And you might say LCK biased. I'm going to put DK above top esports. I think I'm going to do that. Let me think about it though. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I don't care if my tier list is ruined. I don't want to be stock standard top esports 4th best team in the world. I feel like this tier list, it's been very objective so far and I've been very good in being very like level-headed. I just have this feeling, and as much as it is biased a little bit, but even unbiasedly, I just have this feeling that DK would probably beat top esports in like a best of 5. A lot of these takes are going to either age beautifully or they're going to age like milk. And you know what? I'm here for it. If you've got debates in the comments or in the stream chat, go ahead. I am open to being absolutely blasted. If I'm wrong, feel free to add me on any platform and say Omega lul. And if I'm right, I'm more than happy for you to forget that I ever said this. But I am kind of feeling like putting DK as the 4th best team at this tournament. This is a crazy take, though, to say when there's teams like LNG and Top Esports there. Would DK beat LNG? Top Esports is better than LNG, aren't they? I think Top Esports are better than LNG. So why would you say that DK would lose to LNG, but they would beat Top Esports? No, LNG doesn't have Yagao. LNG has Scout. I like using history as a leverage point, but in this case, I don't like using the argument that just because T1 has made top 4 all the time, that they're guaranteed to make top 4 again, like it's some hidden passive. A lot of that history is like old school, you know, a lot of that's irrelevant. I think the best argument that you have is that they were world champs last year with low expectations. I think that's a much stronger argument and compelling with the same roster than Fakers made top 4 at Worlds all the time. I think it's a cool stat, though. It's a great stat. Yeah, this is my final question. My final question in my head for doing the Asian side, we'll get to LCS and G2 in a second, is would LNG beat DK in a best of 5? And I think LNG would... I don't know, man. But I feel like if I'm arguing that LNG would beat DK, then how can I argue that Top Esports wouldn't win either? Like, Top Esports would for sure... Like, LNG... I feel like I've just put myself so many questions just because I put DK this high. Nah, I think I should take them down and just be a human being about it. And just have it like this. But I feel like the problem with this is I feel like everyone's going to have this. And basically what I'm essentially saying here, and like I said last year, is you're saying first place, second place. I know Weibo finished second, but bear with me. Second place, third place, fourth place. And then you're essentially going down a ladder. But it never really works like that at Worlds in terms of who gets far. LNG should make it out of Swiss. LNG just... I do think LNG is the 3rd best team in the LPL. I think they are the 3rd best team. They are. I think Zika has gotten a lot better as well. Zika came into the Worlds last year and was kind of like this player that can play carries and tanks pretty well, which was kind of unique. Zika, especially in that Weibo series, was so much better than Breathe. He was gapping Breathe so fucking hard in this series. It was disgusting to watch. I don't know how many solo kills he got or how much like lane pressure he had, but it was absurd. Yeah, he came up with the Rise into Cannon, which I think he played into one of them was into Cannon, wasn't it? Was it both into Cannon? It was into Cannon, Rise into Cannon Classic. He's got a pretty big champ pool, you know? Zika's champ pool is pretty big. And he's like a new name to like the internationals, right? He was there last year, but I think Zika is an extremely strong top laner. So don't be surprised if some people have Zika in their top 5 top laners in the international. And top lane's pretty stacked this international. I mean, you have Keen, you have Kingen, you have Doran, as much you say about him, Zeus, Bin, 369, Zika, I mean, even Impact. Like, top lane is pretty stacked. Yeah, I think Scout also, his Yone was a big factor in their, was it their regional finals or their summer season? I can't remember when it was, but his Yone was really impressive to watch towards the end of summer. It was a massive pick for him. I think he got it banned against him a lot in the playoffs. I have to check. Did they ban Yone against him, Top Esports? No Yone ban. I wonder why he dropped the Yone. I feel like Scout's Yone. Do you remember Scout's Yone in these summer games? He was yeah, really impressive on Yone. Yeah, the problem with LNG that I see is Hong is kind of like baby On in a way. I feel like Hong has games similar to On in a sense where he kind of like is extremely inconsistent or loses track of like the game or tempo in general, and then he starts chain dying or dying at really bad timers. But then there's other times where him and Gala are huge focal points for the team. And then Weiwei to me is a little bit inconsistent at times. And I favor LNG over Top Esports. Top Esports over LNG mainly because of jungle support in my eyes. I feel like jungle support for Top Esports are just way more reliable, I would say, if I were to have them both in best of 5s against each other. I definitely think in different metas, Scout could outperform Cream. Cream's had good growth. Zika's had good growth as well. I think Scout could definitely outperform Cream in certain metas. 369, I don't think you can really ever outperform 369. You can see the difference of like Zika versus 369 versus Zika versus Breathe, where I think Breathe like had a... The sad thing about Breathe is he's considered a big game hunter, but his end of the year was horrific. Yeah, I think Top Esports I would put above LNG. If Tian, I'm going to do the... Remember I did the Doran deal last year, chat? Remember the Doran deal? Where I, like, advocated for Doran really hard, and I said if Doran runs it down again, I'm done, or some shit. And we'll do the same deal with Tian. If Tian fucks up and runs this international down, or like even if he doesn't run it down, if his team just loses in Swiss, I will never, ever, ever, ever rate Tien and his team above top 6, we'll say, ever again. Ever. I did this for Doran at MSI, I think, this year, and Doran did it. Was it Doran MSI? No, it was Doran World. Sorry, for Gen G. Sorry, my bad. My brain farted. Yeah, I would put top esports above LNG. This tier list looks pretty safe. This tier list looks pretty solid so far, I would say. I don't have anything egregiously wrong with this tier list. But I think the reason I don't have anything egregiously wrong with this tier list is because it's basically in order of where they finish. So I'm going to go on a limb and put some Caedrel spice into this. Like, every world is completely unexpected and things happen that you have no idea. And I'm going to put DK as runners-up. I have a feeling that DK will maybe make top 4. And I'm going to put top esports in top 8 next to LNG and T1. That's going to be my tier list. I feel like everyone's tier list is going to have a bit of spice. Mine's going to be a little bit LCK biased. I'm sure Dom's might be a little bit, not LPL, maybe LPL biased, but I'm going to do that. Maybe all the Western teams do just go into mid-tier. I think one team can go into top 8 from the West. One. And I do think it is G2. I do think that the tier list kind of looks a little bit like this right now in my head. I think the tier list finalized does look a little bit like that. Yeah, I have some like expectations of conclusions that I want to come to. And my expectations are that a lot of people say TL is a mid-centric team. And I think this game, does do something towards mid. But I do think is a bot-centric player. And my analysis of FlyQuest is, well, I think Quad individually is just insane as a player. I think their bot lane is still quite weak. But I think Inspired is a very, very good player when the map isn't falling apart. But if the map is falling apart and lanes need cover, and Inspired has to kind of give up his... Okay, the way I can describe it is like, I feel like there's 2 jungle playstyles, right? There's jungle playstyle A and B, right? Jungle playstyle A is when you pick Maokai Sejuani, right? And you low econ, cover lanes, make sure they're stable, and then you get them ahead by you being able to cover them and them to push out waves. Jungle playstyle B, I know I'm simplifying a lot here, is your lanes are safe enough without you that you can invest more time into yourself, get ahead of enemy jungle in isolation while they cover these lanes, and your laners are safe without you, in a sense, right? The only counter-argument to that is I think Inspired was playing a lot of Ivern and a lot of Sejuani, or a lot of Amumu, rather. So that development was fun to see from Inspired. He kind of went towards a more tank-esque style in the playoffs, whereas in the regular season he was playing more carry-based champions. And as much as FlyQuest, I don't know what their KPM is. Like their skirmish-heavy... Chat, would you say FlyQuest is a very skirmish-heavy team? I feel like they are, but I don't want to get sucked into that narrative too hard of them being like fucking clown-ass fighters. I don't think they're that degenerate of fighters. I do think they skirmish a lot, but I don't think that they... I don't think their early games are very skirmish-heavy. I feel like they definitely in team fights will take a team fight and will fight you on an objective no matter what. But I don't think that they're like an early game heavy skirmish team. This is where I think Team Liquid is a very strong team. I think Team Liquid is a very strong team because... most notably their lane swaps, but also the way they assign lanes, like Impact on TB bot here and catch. And that's why I think, this is why I'm rewatching, because you guys in chat said that they're a very, like, what is doing? They're a very mid-centric team. I do think that they're a jungle support, AD, move, map kind of team. Mid might get a little bit of attention, and top is kind of, actually, now I think about it, maybe just a self-sufficient player. It's because they're playing Kalista? Okay, well, let's look at a different game then. I'm sure you can see a lot of games where they probably play around bot, because I'm pretty convinced is a bot side. This was a game where Inspired level 3 ganks. He does 3 camps into bot. But I think TL's biggest strengths were, it wasn't that they would individually outclass you, it was that they would change up the map in their favor all the time. This is the series that I want to watch. I want to see where plays around here, because this is an interesting kind of like difference where Inspired and are kind of same style champs. This one went to 5, right? This was the 5-game one. I think I remember watching this live and watching the first 2 or 3 games and then falling asleep, or like ending stream and falling asleep. Yeah, I think Team Liquid is better than FlyQuest, I would say. Even though they lost the finals, if I had to choose between Team Liquid and FlyQuest being in an international, I would favor Team Liquid, because I feel like their playstyle is it's a lot more what's the word? Structured, I suppose. Not that FlyQuest isn't structured, but Team Liquid will get ahead by like smart decision making on the map in the early game specifically. And I kind of enjoy that a lot. That kind of reminds me of Gen G in a way. I wonder if they watched a lot of Gen G, because their playstyle does resonate quite similarly with that. This was the unlucky 2v2, right? Like here, I don't like the way Umti's playing the game, for example. Like, I just disagree with what he's doing. He's playing topside to put Cassante up against Renekton. And this is the second time he's doing that. But I just feel like he's playing... Like, what is their win condition here, Team Liquid, in this draft? They're playing MF Rakan, which is losing into Renata. They're playing Cassante, Maokai, and they're against Renekton, which Renekton is fine with tanking pressure. Like, Renekton is really fine getting ganked. He doesn't give a fuck. And they're having Corki Soul. So this game should just be like a slow game, right? Objective focused, like playing through prios. Why is there so much pressure in top from Team Liquid? I don't understand that. Like, if I put my Cassante head against Renekton, will I win the game? Get PDD as a replacement. Like, look at top, right? Renekton just runs back in and starts proxying. I feel like this is where Umti should be. He should be like mid-bot. Renekton just kind of plays in isolation. Like, Inspired being top doesn't surprise me. You just kind of set yourself up for, like, a bad state. Appa's individual lane phase has been pretty good this game, no? Maybe it was because of the Aurelion Soul Roam top. Impact TB bot. Yeon died to the dive while Umti was on grubs. Umti's leaning top lane a lot here. This is how I think the game should be a bit, you know? Like, they should have swapped their MF earlier, maybe. After the second kill onto Renekton. Get first blood tower. Play around the jungle AD support, which is where I think Team Liquid's strengths for me have been. You know, I say this a lot as like what I've seen. You know, maybe they were playing different throughout the regular season, but I really think this is where their success stems from. And this is where I think Team Liquid is like, where Team Liquid has impressed me the most. TPing with Cassante after top push. Looks like a bit of a tough fight though. It's interesting how they got like good leads again through map movements, but this is just a weird decision again by Team Liquid, right? Like, they're just absolute tempo killers. Look what they do. They get kills in bot, they kill a Mumu. They force Aurelion Soul TP and get Renekton flash with Corki TPing bot, right? Corki gets bot tier 1, Corki pushes into tier 2, crashes the wave. Then they transition pressure from bot to mid to top to try and force mid tier 1 and get TP'd on. Lose flash. They're trying to force in a fight around mid while they have no ults that they use all in bot. Right? They use this all on the bot. And they try and force mid tier 1. So they flash out, they get a TP. I'd hate that replay timer. And then Maokai's dead. And they're like fake contesting this. Because Ezreal shows top and they think they can take the 4v4. When Ezreal just runs down and arrives like 10 seconds later. So like to me this is strange decision making because you mainly lose, like your MF is such a big pressure point right now, but MF loses both her summons for this for no reason. How would I say that this playstyle stacks up against Europe? I mean, it's definitely a good playstyle against G2, I think. I mean, there's lots of playstyles that like overlap between teams throughout the world, right? Because basically what happens is Team X has playstyle in LCK LPL, insanely good team. Team Y in the West watches said team and then tries to imitate or copy or try and replicate what they're doing. And so, you know, style kind of transitions well, i.e. Team Liquid's lane swap or lane assignments looks quite similar to what GENG does, if they're ever even or behind. I think this is the biggest question. Is TL or G2 better? That's it. Is TL or G2 better? That's just the question I'm struggling to answer. TL look like a more structured team. G2 look like they are weaker because of their year. Well, their summer. TL apparently had a really good summer split. G2 had a really bad summer split. And they both kind of ended up in the finals in a similar fashion where, I mean, G2 won, but it didn't feel great. And TL lost in an insane regular season. A lot of people, like, a lot of EU fans might think that G2 mega clears, but I think Impact BB is I mean, I think where G2 is mostly favored is mid-jungle, I would say. Here's the best way for me to put it. And I know I'm going to get called EU biased, but I think I've got my conclusion. I think I have 3 arguments as to why G2 is better, and I have 1 argument as to why Team Liquid's better. And therefore, after watching both teams, I'm leaning G2. And I might be called EU's lawyer, and I think if you want to use the argument against me that I haven't watched enough LCS and I'm being biased because I didn't see Team Liquid's regular season, that is a very fair argument to make because I didn't see Team Liquid's regular season. I'm going to give you 3 arguments why I think G2 is better than Team Liquid. Okay? First off, I'll say I think Caps clears Appa. Mainly because, I mean, Caps is obviously the best Western player. Caps had a great year. He won MVP of the year. I just feel like the mid diff, whether it shows in lane or on side lane, which actually is a very big point for G2. If you watch the way G2 plays, Caps' side lane is an insane pressure point for G2. You see games where they're falling behind. Caps is a fucking nightmare to deal with on side lane. He is and he always has been a very strong side laner. And this has been like a very big focus point for G2 is what they'll do is they'll over-index gold onto Caps and drop objectives for it, right? So he can get these side tier 1s and they can play the Caps, get Azir ahead. And when he plays Azir like a side laner. They'll always play into his lane. Caps will be pushing top. They will cross map. They'll drop objectives just so they can index into Caps. And I feel like this side lane strength from Caps is going to be a big problem for Team Liquid if they ever play against each other. So my argument number 1 is I think G2's side laning is better because of Caps, who is a better mid laner. My argument number 2 is that I think that G2 is more flexible. I think that they will show that they have, and I think they have shown that they have, bigger champion pools in the majority of the roles. And so when it comes to drafting, I think G2 is harder to draft against than Team Liquid. G2 can pull out tricks in draft that'll catch Team Liquid off guard. And then the third thing is, I think historically, and when I use the word historically, I don't like using it in past years, but I do like using it this year. I think Team Liquid, the best showing that Team Liquid has showed is that they had a good series against T1 at EWC. I'll give them that. 100% agree. They had a great series against T1. But I think G2 has shown that they can contest with the Asian teams by also having that same kind of incident where they kind of almost beat T1, but also beat Top Esports, right? So I think those 3 arguments are the reason that I would put G2 above Team Liquid. The one counter argument that I would put TL above G2 is that I think TL has a very strong understanding of lane assignments in the early game. They are very good at either 1, lane swapping, or 2, swapping past the early game at 5 to 12 minutes, where their 3-man core of jungle AD support play better than G2, where G2 might just leave the game in even states and just kind of bleed out the early game, because G2's early games suck, and Team Liquid's early games look pretty good at map movements specifically. I think you can go through individual prowess as well, but I would say if I had to put my money on who would make top 8 out of the final team between G2 and Team Liquid, I would put G2. And that's my analysis. So feel free to debate it. Feel free to kind of like fight against it. But those are my main points that I would stick with G2. But I think both of them are very good teams, though. I don't want to take this away. I think they're both very strong teams. And the reason I'm doing this comparison in fighting is I think that I can only put one of these Western teams in the top 8. Otherwise, I'm doing a disjustice by basically saying, well, everyone can make top 8, right? If I do that, I'm essentially saying that in the top 8, there's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams. I think that's just wrong. So I kind of want to put Team Liquid at the top of mid-tier. But that also stings a bit. But I don't really have a choice, I think. Unless I added another tier here in and put like decent. And then put Team Liquid in it. And then put Fnatic and FlyQuest below them. Which actually, you know what? I will do. Because I don't feel like... Well, at least I've come to the conclusion that G2 is better. I just don't like the idea of mid-tier. I think this is fine. I had this many tiers for the last World's tier list. The only difference was Weibo was in the GOAT tier. I just think that this Paris Saint-Germain in Dark Horse in their own ways is going to confuse a lot of people. Anyway, these are my assumptions for a G2 Team Liquid. FlyQuest is a good team domestically, and I think they are toe-to-toe with Team Liquid. And now, the way I'm going to review FlyQuest is... I think FlyQuest are a team that is better than Fnatic, but I still would favor Team Liquid over FlyQuest because I think the playstyle of Team Liquid is more reliable in an international than FlyQuest's, and I'll give you the argument as to why. The reason I would say this is if FlyQuest uses this style, now Inspired has shown that he can play this low econ tank build kind of, even in these Amumu games that I was watching, he was playing a little bit more selfish than normal, and I wonder if their stats reflect that. Yeah, 10 CSD at 15 as jungle is quite high. That is quite high. Let's take... Peanut's a bad example. He's 1.4. We can take Canyon, I guess. Let's take Canyon. 7, right? Canyon 7. And I'm not going to be a stats annie here. I'm going to kind of dissect the stats for you. Being up 10 CS as jungle in this meta shows quite a heavy lean into like a selfish-esque style in a way. Not that this is Inspired's only way to play the game, but my main reasoning for FlyQuest being below TL and the reason their playstyle is worse is Inspired has good laners domestically, like Quad and Bwipo, who can soak pressure and fight their own self-sufficient style against the laners of the NA teams. But if this team plays against a team like Weibo, LNG, T1, G2, Inspired can no longer invest as much time as he already does into himself because the laners might need more help because the caliber of players is stronger. Team Liquid, on the other hand, I think their playstyle is strong against these top teams because they can shake the map up and avoid a lot of like differences in firepower by shifting around the map pretty well. But I do think if FlyQuest and Fnatic played against each other, I would favor FlyQuest. I think Fnatic are too scrappy of a team. They're too inconsistent and they give over too many free leads that FlyQuest is an insanely good team. If I had to give you 2 strengths of FlyQuest, I would say 1, they're incredibly good at making sure that their jungler is strong and Inspired is the best farming jungler and pathing jungler from the West. But 2, they're so good at punishing mistakes. If you make a mistake in a fight, or you take a fight you shouldn't take, or you overdive and waste your resources on like one side of the map, FlyQuest loves that shit. They love that. If you fucking int it into them, they will take that and they will run with it, and they will run the game. They will kind of like steamroll you a bit, you know? And I feel like Fnatic just has too many mistakes or problems in a way when it comes to that. So I feel like the clash of styles is a bit tough for Fnatic, and I think Fnatic would struggle against these two teams. So that's my argument for putting FlyQuest in mid-tier. Actually, I think I'm going to put LNG here. I'm going to put T1 above LNG. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I think at internationals, jungle support is very, very crucial. I think jungle support is very, very crucial. And I think Weiwei and Hung, one of the most inconsistent players, least compatible, I'm not sure what the wording is, for an international like this. I would say that they're the most inconsistent / unreliable jungle support. I think their solo lane caliber is incredibly strong, and you saw that in the regional finals against Weibo. I think Gala is a really strong AD. It's like he's probably one of the better team fighting ADs of the tournament. And I think that, yeah, top mid AD for LNG is good. And I can see arguments about Hung. Like, even I was a big Hung fan last year. I think I made a big argument as to why I think Hung's insane. I don't even know if... I think I put him maybe in my top 5 supports. I can't remember. And obviously I was a mega Weiwei fan because he was on Weibo. But I just get the sense that these two together don't function as well. Like, I don't know if it's their communication or if it's their style. But if I was to put them up against a Tian Mako, if I was to put them up against like a Tarzan Crisp, I think jungle support is such a core necessity that I think another team that's actually been struggling with jungle support is T1. I think T1 has been struggling with jungle support as well. I really do think so. But I think they haven't been struggling as... have they been struggling as much? I think Owner and Keria together are good. But Owner is individually not playing good by himself. I wouldn't relate it as much to the duo. I think this is the biggest toss-up I have here now in this tier list. Listing through things, I think lane phase-wise, I would favor T1. The only person I wouldn't favor is Zeus. I think 2v2 of Guma Keria is strong. I think Zeus' lane phase is insanely strong. It's just... not Zeus, sorry. Faker. Faker is the one where I would obviously be extremely doubtful. Macro-wise, T1's macro is not... it's not exceptional, you know? It's not like world-class macro. I definitely think a lot of what T1 does stem... like, if T1 has a winning lane, they're very good at playing through a winning lane. If T1 can set up an objective first, they're very good at playing fights. If T1 wins a fight, they're very good at punishing. But if the game is quiet, T1 is not slow, but they're not as proactive, you know? T1's macro is very creative, you know? Feels like they do like some good plays, but they don't really find a play to break the game open. He's going to TP out here, I guess, yeah. 369 just solo kills in isolation. The Mordekaiser is just a mega pick versus some of their champs like Rakan, Cassante playing against Mordekaiser. It's crazy that Cream even TP top and just took top tier 1. Yeah, and T1 is also very inconsistent. I feel like we've had really good reasoning and arguments for a lot of these things, but this one I'm struggling with to find an argument as to why LNG or T1 are better than one another. I mean, you can use so many arguments. You can say T1, like, historically is better. Like, historically, T1 clears LNG. Individually, LNG has players that can outclass T1. Jungle support-wise, I think they're both, like, kind of even, and their macros are both, like... I think, well, T1's macro is probably slightly worse. Peak, T1 is better. I feel like I'm slightly biased towards Zeus, though. I do think Zeus is going to be... am I just biased towards top laners? I think I'm just biased towards top laners in general. I don't know, man. LNG's playoffs was just so fucking dog shit. Like, if LNG just beat Weibo and then lost to Tess, it would be pretty easy. But LNG's just looked so fucking cheeks in playoffs. They got murdered by Tess, who kind of just didn't look contested too much in any of the games, I feel like. They just kind of bled LNG out, especially like on the third game. I think I'm going to keep it the way it was and put T1 here. Because LNG had a really good regular season. They did. Like, LNG's regular season was great. They bombed the playoffs and then 3-0'd into from regionals. But T1 just... The collapse of T1 is insane to me. You know, there was even parts of T1's regular season where it was even questionable whether they were even going to make playoffs. In the first place, weren't they like 5th or 6th for a bit when FearX was on like this miracle run? There was like, I think week 7 or 6, there was parts where FearX was maybe going to come and overtake. And LNG's never really been in that spot where things are that dire. The problem with T1, it's never the normal way, it's always the T1 way. But yeah, I think I'm going to keep it the way it was before. LNG versus T1. If you had that matchup right now, who would win? Take away your T1 bias, be honest. So you think T1 would beat LNG?
Yeah, so my like personal take, because I did a tier list. The way I did my tier list, I broke it up into like 2 parts. There's like one that's just like pure like analytical side, and then the other one is the like me just being like full bias, like what I think will happen.
That's a good idea. That's what I should do.
So I think that no team outside of BLG, GENG, Hanwha Life would actually win a best of 5 at Worlds against T1. Like I feel like T1, because of who they are and the fact that they've like been there before, the confidence that they have on stage, just the way they play, I don't think that the other teams are good enough that they will actually win a best of 5 against T1. Like I can't see it. If I were to take, you know, TL, who I think has decent parts of them, and I put them against T1 in a best of 5, isn't T1 just gonna clutch it out? Aren't they gonna just game 4, game 5, just fucking clutch it out?
So you're using like history as like the main like historically this roster, right?
It's like historically this roster, but it's also just when T1 plays like big matches, it feels like T1 only gets beat in big matches, like in playoffs and just internationally. They only get beat by teams that are a level up on them, like that are significantly better than them. It never feels like they lose to a team outside of, I guess, that DRX series where it was like a team that is worse or even to them actually can beat them in a best of 5.
So you're saying DK was a better team?
Bro, do you think I'm that blessed? Do you actually think I'm that blessed that T1's gonna lose in quarterfinals? You think I'm gonna get lucky like that? Of course not.
What
bro.
changed? What changed? Do you have so you actually think T1 would probably, if you would rank teams right now, you would say, because BLG, GENG, Hanwha Life would be the only teams to do it, you would say that they're probably the 4th best team in the tournament?
Yes. Like that's what I would think, but there's no like good reasoning, you know. It's just the bullshit reasoning and intuition and feeling and all that stuff.
So
that's
if you
why
had
I
to
did
say
2 different tier lists.
Okay, so if you had to say objectively skill-wise,
I think that like where you have them is fine. Like I would have. Is this like I wasn't here for how you did this. Is this like 1 to 14 like ranking, or is this like just different like?
It's more
tiers?
like
what does runners up mean?
It's more like categories, right? I mean, it's ended up in a position where I'm kind of like ranking them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as well, but they're like kind of in tiers they're labeled in. Like dark horses in their own ways. Like I actually think Weibo could make a degenerate ass fucking run to semis, but I don't think they're like egregiously good. And similarly, PSG, it's not the same, but I do think PSG could make a random top 8 run. It's like there's context behind those two, for example, right? And like top 8, I don't know. I just came with the debate in my head. It's like G2 and TES on these either sides was good in my head, but T1 LNG just for some reason I kind of got stuck on the idea of who would win if they put up against each other. Like I was leaning towards T1 because I think my argument analytically was that I think T1's side lanes are stronger and their jungle support is probably better on a good day, but that's the only real argument that I had.
I mean, I think also LNG is the type of team where they don't play well in dirty series. If they lose a game in a series, they don't have the ability to like come back. They don't have any comeback plays that they make. Like T1, when they're in a series, they'll be gonna be able to play from all different game states. They can play when they're ahead. They can play when they're behind. I feel like LNG, they're smart about understanding what their comp should do and like let's say that they play a lot of the like Ziggs comps and stuff like this, and they know how to take turrets, they know like when to swap, play for grubs, whatever. And then if you break that one time, you do one thing they don't expect, or they lose one fight that they shouldn't lose, it all falls apart like instantly. So that's like that's why I don't really rate LNG that highly. I just don't feel like you win worlds by, or like you do well in worlds, you make a good run in worlds by having that quality. Every team that does well in worlds, I feel like is able to play like the gritty games. They have to play like the close games because it's going to happen at some point. That's like the same reason why I don't rate top esports that highly. I feel like they have the same quality where it's just they collapse when things don't go their way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing is, the way I was phrasing a lot of the early parts of the tier list was like, I think top esports will collapse again in internationals. But I feel like I'm doing my job wrong as like an analyst in a sense by rating them low, because they are like an insanely strong team and they've shown like really good qualities, right?
Yeah, that's what I did too. I did the me being a pussy tier list where I was just like, this is what I should say, and then I did the other one where I'm like, nah, fuck these teams. Like this team is like, I don't like this team no matter what. Like Dom1, for example, I just don't believe in that team. I feel like their mid game macro it leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. There's so many times in this like regional qualifier where I'm just like, can you please hit Baron? Can you please just start Baron like in this advantage timing? Because then you'll be able to like force the enemy team to make a mistake. You have to hit the Baron, and they look so confused later
Yeah,
on.
that Baron. I remember that was the Showmaker Corky flash on his head as well, right? You're thinking.
Yeah. Oh my god. And then like the Camille is turning. It's like, bro, you're just trying to kill Baron and get out, and then Showmaker flashes on top of himself. I don't know. I don't know.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm trying to not be too mind gamed by just like one series. So for like regionals, for example, I think that T1, like, I mean, they beat Damon's ass in playoffs, but it's just like in regionals they lost to Damwon. But I really feel like T1 just played worse than Damwon on the day, and I don't actually think that T1's a worse team than Damwon.
The reason I put them lower was because T1 in regionals overall just looked bad. Like against Hammerlife, they got shit stomped. Then against Damwon, they looked all over the place, and then against KT, they also looked like it was just a long trend of T1 just slumping.
Like, I don't know, man. I even like look at some of the games, the Damwon game 5. When I think about that Damwon game 5, it's like I felt like they were gonna lose 100% up until like they just started randomly getting kills. Like if you watch the first 10 minutes of that game, it feels like unwinnable almost.
But their draft is so bad, right? Like D+ draft
I think
is so bad, right?
Terrible.
Yeah.
I think the LeBlanc is actually good. No, sorry, I'm wrong about this. I thought the LeBlanc was actually good, but I hated the way he built. That's what it was. Like I thought that this build that he went this game, like where he was going like Zhonya's on 3. What was it? Luden Horizon Focus Zhonya's in a game like this. It's like, what are we buying a Zhonya's for in this game? Actually, like it didn't make sense to me. And I thought he should be like
Zyra, but that's it.
And the way that they were playing the early game, I didn't agree with. Like there's an opportunity, I think at like 4 minutes in this game, where Faker has no flash, and he has the ability to like flash W chain him. Like you see everyone bot lane, and I'm like, if you're gonna be playing LeBlanc in this game 5, you just need to be making plays like that. If you're not making plays like that, then this champion is just.
Why is it every team that I like you just fucking hate? Like I actually am mega Damwon biased, but
I mean I do like them, but I like Damwon is
do you hate me? Just tell me if you hate me.
Yeah, bro. I'll just say it, bro. I'm just praying on your downfall every day. I'm just like, bro, I look at the view count and I just have developed hatred for you because of the view count.
Jesus.
You are no longer my friend.
Jesus.
I'm trying to just sabotage you from the inside, you know?
You're just an inside, it's an inside job.
Yeah,
just get me banned on Twitch right now. Just say a word. Just get me banned on Twitch for 2 weeks right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 2 weeks? Ooh, I could farm. I need a voice changer for that.
I thought Lilia LeBlanc was so... I just hate that mid jungle. I hated it.
Yeah. I didn't like it either. And like also with like the Gnar, like you see the combinations like Gnar, Lilia, LeBlanc. I feel like most of the LeBlanc angles we saw in playoffs just are paired with the weirdest things. Like if you think about Worlds, right? What are people going to be playing? They're going to be playing like Jarvan LeBlanc, these types of combos.
Yeah, Viego, maybe. Yeah,
Viego LeBlanc, exactly. Like AD jungler. Like I always thought that was the combo. But what did we see? We saw what? Ivern LeBlanc from C9? Like, ugh. Ivern LeBlanc.
LeBlanc Maokai. I mean, Showmaker was the only real LeBlanc player in the LCK. LeBlanc, Maokai, yeah. I think the meta at Worlds definitely be different. I didn't really like LeBlanc, but I didn't really base this tier list based on like what I expect the meta will be. Did you include like meta thoughts as well based on where you rank teams?
Like I lightly in the first tier list, and then the second one I just went like, you know, what I just think will end up happening at Worlds, because there's certain champions that I feel like will be.
Yeah,
World
I think that's
champions,
smart. I think two tier lists is pretty smart actually. But I think your argument that T1 is, I actually think that the idea that T1 is a good comeback team is actually really true. I think they actually are like a pretty decent comeback team. Like they are creative in the way that they come back in games, whereas LNG are probably just kind of like fall over and die.
They're a hard team to beat. It feels like to beat T1, you've got to beat them like multiple times in a game. They don't just like roll over and die the way other teams do.
Yeah, I forgot about that strength. That was like a really big strength for T1 last year, especially, I think. You're being really like kind to T1. What happened?
Oh, and I'm just trying to be realistic because I just know like, bro, there's a chance they might win this shit again. Like, who knows, bro?
Yeah,
like, I don't know. I might have to watch it 2 years in a row. Like, it's scary. But yeah, no, I completely agree with your point that last year Weibo had a completely like fraudulent run to finals that was completely undeserved. So I agree they're a dark horse, and that could happen again.
When did I ever say that part of it?
Oh, did you not say that?
No, I didn't. No.
That's what I interpreted from it.
But I did say Tian's gonna choke. Well, not choke. He's gonna grief it. I'm telling you. Are you still a Tian fan?
I mean, I've never really been a Tien. Like the whole Tien
What?
fan thing was ironic. It was an ironic thing. I like flamed him for like a year. I flamed him at Worlds 2021. I'm like, this guy is so bad. And then I just watched him be the best jungler in LPL for a full year. So that's like why people made me into the IWD GOAT.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah,
you
it was
also
like an
think that they're
ironic
gonna
thing.
fucking run it somehow.
I view Tien. I don't know how you view it. I view Tien and Peanut like the same way.
Yeah.
You know,
Stylistically, yeah.
Yeah, stylistically, and then also like they both play worse at Worlds. Like I think Tien's a more extreme version of Peanut, but they are very similar in my mind.
Yeah, I can see stylistically. The thing that annoys me about the Peanut situation is like, I mean, for example, I think Peanut kind of gapped every jungler in the LCK playoffs. Like, no joke, I think he was completely gapping everyone.
Yeah, he was really good.
The problem is, he either shows up at the international and is a bit AFK, or he does something that you can just point at and be like, that's why he's choking. Like, he'll rel flash forwards and do nothing. And then that one thing is like, he's choking. And that's it. It's over.
I mean, I think also like champion pool might be different. I mean, they did nerf like Maokai and stuff. It seems like some bruiser junglers might come back. I'm not sure like what the meta will be for sure, but I can't imagine Peanut being like that insane on Jarvan when I compare him to other junglers. Like, I feel like he's the guy that I want to be seeing play Maokai, Sejuani, Poppy, Vi, you know, over and over.
Okay, well, you've answered my question that I was kind of stuck on. I like the idea of doing a second tier list. I think I'm going to do that
just
as well.
Just go full bias.
Yeah, full bias tier list. I really like Dom's points. I think that he definitely swayed it for me, like, analytically, the T1 comeback team thing. I think that's something that I completely overlooked, even though I thought about it a lot last year. I don't know why I didn't think about that. I think someone was trying to tell me in chat. He wrote in chat, I've been saying this for the last hour. There's a tier list. Now I'm going to involve meta and bias. It'll be really quick. I've got it already simulated. Hammerlife's going to make top 4, but they're not going to make finals. LNG is going to be mid. T1 is going to make top 4, probably. DK is going to be a horrible disappointment and probably get knocked out before Swiss stage starts. G2 is also going to be pretty bad. Top esports are going to be complete dog shit. Weibo's somehow going to sneak into top 4 as well, maybe. Now we'll say top 8. PSG is definitely not getting into Swiss stage. It's complete cope. And wait, who's in my top 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Top 8 will probably be no Western teams. That'll be the top 8. Top esports are going to sneak in and get 3-0'd by anyone. Actually, now fuck it. Top esports aren't making out of Swiss. They're fucking trash. FlyQuest's probably going to make it out of... FlyQuest is probably going to do some stupid ass fucking run and make it out of there. GENG is going to like somehow fucking end up losing it. T1's going to slot themselves into like the top 3 somehow. And Weibo is going to be top 4 and Hammerlife is going to be the better of the top 8. That's what's probably going to happen at Worlds. Weibo is going to somehow make it at the top 4. FlyQuest is going to somehow upset and make it out at fucking Swiss stage and be top 8 for no reason. DK is probably going to get eliminated first round. Hammerlife maybe makes top 4, but also probably loses in quarters as well. Maybe so there's some kind of choking going on. And LNG is just going to be disappointing as fuck. And top esports is going to get locked down in Swiss stage. And they're going to be the upset that FlyQuest didn't come through. Mad Lions is probably going to make it out of play-ins. And actually, no, Mad Lions are probably going to get knocked out in play-ins, aren't they? Or 100 Thieves. One of these teams, 100 Thieves or Mad, one of them is going to get knocked out of play-ins. One of them. 100%. I can see it already. That's my biased tier list. I think BLG staying there because the meta is going to be great for them. GENG is going to struggle on the meta and probably make top 4. T1 is going to be great on the meta and they're going to do some miracle run to top 4 or maybe top 2. Weibo somehow is going to sneak in like they fucking fake ID into a club. Hammerlife, Zeka is going to be fucking... Even though I love Zeka and think he's insane, he's going to struggle on the new meta and they're somehow going to choke Doran and Peanut. LNG is just going to be disappointing as fuck. Damwon, Showmaker is going to come into this tournament. They're going to start off like 2-0 in Swiss and then somehow finish fucking 3-2, scraping up against the win against G2 or Team Liquid, then getting 3-0'd by fucking, I don't know, BLG or some shit, some shitty draw. FlyQuest is somehow going to be 2-2 and draw like top esports and then beat them in a massive upset series to qualify and then get 3-0'd by fucking God knows what, Hammerlife or Weibo. And that's probably what's going to happen. G2 is probably going to go 2-2 and then lose a tiebreaker to someone. Team Liquid will be alright. Fnatic maybe 1-3. And that's probably what's going to happen at Worlds if you ask me. And actually, unironically, that's probably what's going to happen at Worlds. I can see it already. Either that or some similar iteration if you replace FlyQuest with any of these 3 teams. And if you replace Weibo with maybe D+. These are interchangeable and these are interchangeable. That's what happens every single fucking tournament. Some fucking team sneaks in, upsets. Some other team somehow makes a run to the finals. Another team comes in that's not the favorites and fucking wins it anyway. The favorites choke. They lose in semis or quarters. and they get gapped because Worlds isn't about skill level. Worlds is about who will perform under pressure, and no one feels pressure like a Worlds knockout best of 5, no matter how many domestic games you played. And the pressure gets you, you fuck it up, and there's some players who perform under pressure and they just pop the fuck off. And that's what's just gonna happen. Completely unbiased analytical approach, except for these two would be interchangeable if I stopped being dumb on bias, but I did it a little bit dumb. The only bias is these two are interchangeable. I was biased to dumb on, I'll allow that. Other than that, this tier list is pretty, like, objective. This is what's gonna happen in the script. Completely true, everything's gonna change. Every single fucking international is the goddamn same. DRX won Worlds as the 4th seed. T1 made finals as the 2nd seed, not even favorites. T1 won Worlds, not even favorites. GENG favorites got knocked out by Weibo, who were the fucking... BLG, top 2 team, got knocked out by Weibo, which made no sense. JDG Super Team lost to the 2nd seed of the LCK. It's gonna happen every fucking year. Some dumb shit's gonna happen. Ever since COVID, Worlds is scripted. Changed my mind. The last time Worlds wasn't scripted was 2020 when DK won, when they were supposed to win. That's it. I'm pretty sure 21 EDG won when they weren't supposed to win. Weren't they like, I don't know what seed they were, but they weren't exactly favorites. So ever since COVID, it's all fucking scripted, and this is gonna happen again. Where's Vedius? Let's get Vedius' take on the tier list. Up your volume.
What the fuck do you mean this is your analytical tier list?
Here we go.
What analyst can look at any of the last DK series and go, yeah, that's better than the 2nd best team in the LPL? 100%, bro. Yeah, totally. No, that's true. That is definitely better. No, guys, I'm not biased. What do you mean? When you look at how Down One play, obviously, they're better than top esports. True. Based.
True. True. That's true.
Analyst of the year, by the way. Analyst of the year said that.
You can tell the point when you became Twitch chat.
22,000 people, and he said that Dom 1 somehow is better than top esports. So that's how we're going to start this. Right? That's the professional analyst. Then, okay, he used the caveat. Dark horses. I've got to take my hoodie off. It's too fucking warm. Dark horses in their own ways. He says there's a world where PSG can make top 8. But somehow Team Liquid can't. You said, and I quote, I think Team Liquid are the best Western team. That was a quote from Caedrel. And somehow they can't make top 8, but PSG can. And PSG can. Guys, I didn't watch any VODs, by the way. I was convinced by a guy on Twitter that they can make top 8.
Hey, that's not true.
However, Team Liquid can't.
Hey, that's not true. I did
Listen,
use
Marc,
MSI as a big argument.
I like Molecule a lot. I respect his opinion. I enjoy all of his content. Big fan. Love him a lot. But that is what your argument is.
Also, I did say that TL comment like a month and a half ago.
You said it, not me. I didn't say it. You said it. But all I'm saying...
It was a while ago, though.
Is if we're using the argument of dark horse, anything can happen. You're arguing that PSG is more likely to randomly get into a top 8 than Team Liquid is. When you even admitted yourself that Team Liquid had only competitive series versus T1. Twice, both at MSI and at EWC.
Hang on. This is good because you're basically like the Reddit comments, so I can address all of the concerns. I did say that the purple tier of Dark Horses doesn't mean they're better or worse than the people above or below them. What it means is that if there's any chance of teams causing upsets, I think that these two teams are the upset teams. I could easily put PSG in mid-tier, above the EU teams maybe, and Weibo, like, argue top 8. But I put them in their own special tier because I gave reasoning as to don't be surprised if one of these two teams does something crazy. That's the only reason I put in there.
Frankly, as someone who's hired as a professional analyst,
oh my god,
that's cooked. Let's go into the actual tier list that you made, you know, the one that actually had, you know, it took you 3 hours to get to this point, and then in 5 minutes you made a better tier list. Let's go to the fucking second page. Let's go to the second page.
Wait, let me fix it
took you 3 hours, man. 3 hours. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, bro, listen. What are you fixing? Why is... Okay, listen.
That's what it was before.
Let's talk through this methodically. Okay, let's do this together as a team. Okay, because you know what, we're friends, we're buddies. At the end of the day, we're trying to make something accurate.
It
right?
took me 3
That's
hours
what
to
we
make
want.
that tier list.
It took you, Mark. I woke up and your stream went live. Okay, I woke up at about midday and I spent an hour watching the podcast from Dom this morning. That's what I did when I woke up. The moment it was finished, okay, the moment it was finished, I see your stream is live and I tune in. And you're doing the tier list. So I've been here since 1 p.m. and it's 4:25. I've been here.
Well, I like to think.
You like the yap, okay? Because I'm doing extensive LPL prep right now. I'm going through as many VODs as I can. I'm learning all the narratives. I'm doing all my research. I'm like, hey, Caedrel's done. He's watched a bunch of VODs. I'll listen to his takes. I'm sure that I'll learn a lot. Anyway, let's get into the actual tier list, shall we?
Go here.
Okay, let's get into this. So. First of all, statistically, now I don't remember who wrote the Reddit thread, but last year there was a thread that said something like there's a 60%
You are a Redditor.
chance.
You're bringing up Reddit.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Shut the fuck up. Of course, because we do real analysis. That's what we do. High five chat, okay? I don't know if you have a high five emote, but I'm high fiving all of you right now because this fraud has no idea what he's talking about, okay? Last year, there was a thread that did some sort of statistical breakdown that showcased that the probability of a Western team qualifying for the top 8, right, is something like 60%. Because it's highly probable that teams are going to team kill. Sorry, regions are going to team kill. In the same way that KT and Damwon team
But there's no same region matches now.
No, but only for like the second round or something.
No rematches.
I don't think that's... Yeah, but that's rematches. That doesn't mean like KT and Damwon can play in the first round.
Yeah, but they knocked each other out in the second round.
Yeah, I know that. But KT could still... Oh, sorry. Like, if we use the example... So, in this year, that version would be Dam1 and T1 playing the first round, right? Or something, right? And then they meet up again, but that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But Dam1 could meet GENG, or Dam1 could meet Hanwha Life. That's possible.
Right, they
and they could knock each other out.
They
Alternatively...
can't play each other in the first round because they can't do first round same region, but they can play
Yeah,
in the
sure.
second
Yeah, I
round
get that.
and not get them in the last. Yeah.
You get my point, though. My point is that but alternatively, you could have a second seed LPL and a second seed LCK knocking each other out in Swiss as well. It didn't happen this year, or last year, sorry, but it can happen, right? So the odds of something like an NA versus EU to actually qualify for the top 8 is probable somewhere down the line, especially if all the good teams get through first. Us shitters towards the end, the probability of us drawing another shit team is pretty high. You know? So we can maybe sneak one of those spots. So first of all, I just think that in any tier list, there should be a Western team in the top 8. Just blanket. But let's be optimistic, Mark. Let's say that there's 2. Okay? Let's say that there's 2. Because obviously last year, right? G2 lost to NRG. But let's say this time round, G2 get a slightly better draw and the upset happens, right? Now I'm speaking in my hypothetical world, right?
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is G2 is going to find a way to draw top esports. Now, we already know that G2 has the mental advantage over top esports, right? But obviously, everyone's going to be like, top esports is obviously the favorite. And you and I, as professional analysts, I'm going to go on the broadcast. You're going to come on stream and being like, top esports are the favorites today. Top
and you're going to yap about how top esports is going to win in the desk.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to have, as a professional, I got to be honest. And I got to say, like, when you look at the struggles that G2 had in the early game, you look at how Tiana's performed throughout the year, like, there's no reason why top, sure, they lost an MSI.
Before you continue, we need to make a deal. If you are on the analyst desk and G2 versus top esports happens for a promotion series, I want you on the analyst desk, if this happens, to say a really good point about why top esports is better, then look in the camera and wink.
If I'm on the cast, can I do the same thing?
Yeah. Like, wow, I think top esports is like definitely favored here. I think Tian is going to gap Yike, and then just look at the camera and just
wink. Yeah.
That's got to happen.
Okay, deal. I can do that. Yeah.
Perfect.
If I'm on the desk or if I'm on cast, I can do that. Sure. Anyway, top esports is going to get not upset by G2. But of course, top esports is going to have another chance, right? Because it's still early on in the Swiss stage.
Yeah.
So first of all, in the top 8, we've got to put G2 because they're going to get this surprise upset, right? That's going to happen.
Okay.
Then what's going to happen is top esports somehow is going to draw. Now, this is where I'll let you decide. They're either going to draw T1 or Dam1. Which is it going to be? You can choose.
T1.
And they're going to lose. So top
T1.
esports is, so top esports getting knocked out. So what we know now, right, is G2 and T1 are already in our top 8. Easy. We've solved that. Okay. Now we've just got to figure out which NA versus EU team is going to happen and which of our second, because my suspicion is that we're going to get a TL versus Fnatic qualification for top 8 as well. And then Team Liquid is also going to get out because we already established that Team Liquid is the father of Fnatic.
Yeah, they are.
APA is Humanoid's basically dad at this point.
We're going to the lineage.
So,
but yeah, get dad, great grandfather, everything.
So now we've got T1, G2, and Team Liquid in top 8, right? So adjust the list because that's what we've got, right? Also, you've got to rename the second one to semifinals. I don't want any of this runner-up bullshit. We've got top 8, semifinals, finals because that's what we're doing an accurate tier list.
Who did you want me to move around? G2 swaps with TL.
So we got G2, T1, and TL minimum top 8. We've got to figure out the top 8 first, right? Because that's how we do. Right. So we've got top 8, semifinals, and then finals. Those are the only things that matter.
Yeah. So
top 8, semis, and finals, right? So now we've got to figure out who's going to be confident. Well, we know GENG, first stage of any tournament, is going to be good. So GENG comfortably top 8, right? Yeah. They're not going to have any trouble, right? BLG, they might be a bit, maybe. But we're also pretty confident that BLG is very likely going to make top 8, right? So we can put them in there. So now we've got T1, G2, TL, BLG, GENG, right? So now the question becomes Hanwha Life, Damwon, and LNG. Who's team killing who? Because think about the first round, right? So the first round is all best of ones.
I don't know. You had last year. You did this, and you had predictions, and they were insanely close. You were so close. So you need to, don't ask me. You need to just fucking believe.
Yeah. So, but we know that BLG and GENG as first seeds. No, Hanwha Life is the first seed. Okay. So BLG and Hanwha Life are going to get super easy matchups round one. So both of them are going to be 1-0. Then it comes down to in the next part between the second seeds and the third seeds, who else is going to go 1-0?
Write the script, Eddie. Write it.
So we know BLG is going to win. Hang on, I wish I could get the format. Leaguepedia doesn't show me clearly, like, as far as so GENG played against GAM, right? Who they beat. JDG played BDS, who they beat. LNG played Fnatic, who they beat. NRG played Weibo, who they lost. T1 played TL, who they beat. BLG played KT, who they beat. And then, where is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm missing. Damwon played G2, who they lost to. Mad.
You're actually like
C9.
live writing the script.
Mad versus C9. So Mad lost to C9. So in round 1, right, we know that BLG is going to win. We know that Hanwha Life is likely going to win because one of those two teams is going to get the fourth play-in team.
Lock in here. Talk to me.
Yeah, they're going to get like a gap. I need you to do your drawing on screen, right? I need you to do your drawing. That's what we need. Or you need open up a paint like you did with the drafting, right? We'll work out the whole thing, okay? We'll work out the whole thing together. So open your paint and then we'll do. So first of all, right?
Wait,
so
what
round
about this?
1.
I can do you one better. What about that?
Oh shit! That's way better.
Let's run with this. Is this okay?
Oh wait, that's pretty good. Wait, that's perfect. Oh yeah, dude, this is great. This'll do. This works great. Let's work with this. Okay. So we know BLG is going to win round 1, right? Yeah. Because they're going to get a team like GAM or they're going to get a team like Mad, right? That's totally fine. So BLG's in. Hanwha Life, we know they've won as well, right? Next, G2, they'll beat 100 Thieves. They've already done it in the show matches that they put on your stream. We're going to see some Cho'Gath mid or some shit. That's great. This time round, we'll give the win to FlyQuest. Clearly, they've gotten better. Yeah. You've already told me that T1 is going to beat Top Esports, so T1's going to win there. Yeah. Let's assume as well that Damwon is as good as you say, and we'll give the Damwon the win over Fnatic. Yeah. That game, by the way, the best game of the World Championship. If Fnatic versus Damwon gets to play, it's literally a game of who can throw harder. I'm convinced. Anyway, Team Liquid versus Weibo. Here, that one's hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
That one is hard, Mark.
But okay, Weibo's going to win.
Yeah, we'll give him Weibo. We'll give him Weibo and GENG. That's round 1, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, show me the lock-in, right? Now, here, see, this is exactly, GENG versus Hanwha Life is what I predicted to happen, okay, in the actual World Championship, where Hanwha Life will win again. Nope, they won't. GENG will win, because Chovy will adapt to the meta better than...
Okay.
Thingy will. Yeah. He'll have his Silas banned, and he won't be able to play Syndra or Orianna. That's fine. Then we'll have G2 beating Weibo, and we'll have BLG beating Damwon, and we'll have T1 beating FlyQuest.
Yeah. And the lower bracket?
BLG, and then T1. And then the lower bracket, PSG will beat 100 Thieves, Top Esports will beat LNG, Team Liquid will beat GAM, and then Fnatic will obviously beat Mad.
It's a classic. G2 GENG.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So we know G2's going to lose here. This is the round, same thing as last year. GENG wins, they qualify top 8. Now the question is, in the early stages of the tournament, T1, they're a ramp-up team, so BLG has to win. So we know GENG and BLG, they're secured in top 8, right? Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Okay? Then in the 1-1s, TL is going to win, right? Then we know that Darmon's probably going to win, because based on your logic, Darmon is the greatest team in the world, right?
True.
We'll still give this win to Top Esports because we need Top Esports to get a win here. Because in the next round, G2, I'm hoping, plays against Top Esports. That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
And then LNG and then Mad will win the lower round.
And Fly loses to HLE, I guess.
Yeah. Fly loses to HLE. Yeah. I missed that one.
Oh, there it is, Steady, there it is. G2.
So G2 wins here. G2 wins here. Okay. G2 wins here. That's the first big upset of the tournament, right?
TLT with Team Liquid as well.
Right, and then T1's going to beat TL, but it's going to be close. It's going to be close. It's going to be 2-1. T1 is going to have that clutch factor, locking them in, okay?
What?
And then Hanwha Life is going to beat Damwon, okay? That's what's going to happen.
Okay, I see you.
Then in a strange turn of events, Mad will beat PSG, okay?
Okay.
LNG will beat Fnatic.
Yeah.
Europe will be sad and happy on the same day, right? Now, FlyQuest, Weibo. I'm going to have to give it to Weibo. We'll have to give it to Tarzan. Oh, but Tarzan Inspired is going to be crazy jungle matchup, bro. Crazy jungle matchup. But we give it to Weibo. I'm sorry, FlyQuest. I'm sorry. Inspired, you're a great jungler. Amazing jungler. But I feel...
Now what, though? Now what?
And this is it. This is what happens. See? This is where I think the upset can happen for Team Liquid. This is where I think it can happen.
Over that one?
But or is it the miracle where Tian sees a Corki top lane and he has no idea what's happened? He's never seen a Corki top lane in his life. They're picking Nidalee. They think it's jungle, but it's actually support for Alvaro.
Oh my god.
Top Esports don't know what hit him. So LNG is going to beat Weibo. I'm sorry, Weibo. Darmon's going to beat TL. We're going to be sad.
Mad makes it to top 8.
And then Mad makes it to top 8. Lock in. And now we have our top 8 teams in the top. Now, Here's what I'm saying. Whoa, don't lose all that. Because we still got to keep that. Now, we've got our top 8. So go back to the tier list. Let's update the top 8.
Oh my god, I trolled.
What have you done, Marc?
It reset. It said go back. I thought it went go back to the Swiss stage, not go back as in like reset.
Marc, what have you done, Marc? What have you done? Obviously, there's a world. All I'm saying, right, this is what championship is that Mad spot is interchangeable. It could be any of the Western teams. The likelihood of it being Mad's low, but you know,
because if TL in that last draw hypothetically took Top Esports instead of Mad, we would be seeing TL instead of Mad.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? So that spot can belong to any of the teams. It could be a Fnatic, it could be a FlyQuest.
Yeah, here. We could have had TL getting top and Mad getting DK, and that sounds like it would happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? You get it, right? So that spot that Mad holds is interchangeable. That's what I'm saying. So don't get too attached to the Mad, okay? Because that could be any of the thing. So if we're making the tier list, go back to the tier list, quick. Back to the tier list, right? So we've got our top 8, right? Yeah. We've got to update this as we go, okay? Top 8, you got to fill in those teams now that we just had, right? Yeah, so quickly, put those teams in the top 8 that we just had, which was what?
We got them.
Hanwha Life, GENG, BLG. And then what we'll do is make a tier underneath your dark horses, rename it to could be any of these teams, like something like that. And then you put TL, you put Fnatic, and you put FlyQuest or something. And then you put whatever. Yes, you put TL.
The West.
Yeah, the West. Yeah, you just put the West in there, and it's just like they're like the 8th. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Right. So now we move on to the next stage. Okay. Yep. So now we know that BLG and GENG are top seeds.
Yeah.
So they will get the one of the 3-2 teams.
Yeah.
Which, can you go back to that screenshot that we had so I can see the results? Not your paint document, the screenshot.
It's Mad DK and LNG are the 3-2.
See, and here it comes, the team kill. That's what I'm saying. And we get Damwon versus G2, baby. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The team kills happen. So then we move into the semifinals. BLG knock out LNG. We know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
GENG knocks out Mad. It's going to be Mad or FlyQuest or Team Liquid. We know that's going to happen, right? And now the big ones. Obviously, everyone's going to predict T1 is going to beat Hanwha. Of course T1's going to, because T1 never misses top 4, Marc. T1 never misses top 4. They don't. Of course they don't. It's T1. It's the GOAT. They've just had a documentary made. Everyone loves T1. I cried when Guma said, do you remember when Guma said to Poby, don't get used to losing?
Yeah.
I cried, bro. I cried. What a goat. My
you know what
goat.
Poby did? You know what Poby did after that?
What did he do?
He got used to losing.
Shut the fuck up.
Okay, sorry. Carry on. Carry on.
Okay, listen. And then, now, obviously, you're a down one believer. But this is the day that G2 finally get their revenge. After so many years, this is it. This is when the G2 coat becomes real, and then they make the top 4. This is how it happens. This right, Marc, stop with that face. Marc, you know the truth. You know that it's happening. Marc, Damwon is basically the Korean version of Fnatic.
Kind of correct until then.
No, Marc, you know the truth, okay? You know the truth. Just put in G2. You know that's what's gonna happen. You know it. I know it. You know it. The chat knows it, okay? Everyone knows the truth. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's like, you know, like you've still got T1 and GENG, right? It's just, that's it. There we go. Right, now we move on to the next round. Now, of course, this is where it gets fucking spicy. First, you have to update the tier list, okay? Update the tier list. Because now we've got to move our teams up into the top 4, right? So now we've got to move GENG, BLG, T1. So now we've got our 4. So now we've got to figure out the finals, okay? Now we have to figure out the fucking finals.
Obvious, no?
You think it's obvious?
Yeah. Come on, GENG.
It's T1 GENG. Of course it fucking is.
It's T1 GENG.
It's T1 versus GENG, as the scriptwriters foretold. You didn't get it in the LCK finals because they were saving it for the World Finals. Obviously. We knew that it was coming. And there you go. And there's your finalists. And then I'm not going to predict the World's winner. That's not my place. That's not my job. So then we just fill in the tier list, the rest of the tier list.
That's it.
And there you go. There is your accurate World's tier list for 2024. Tell me that's not believable. Tell me.
Believable.
You can't do it.
You lost me a G2 loses that beats Damwon. But other than that,
sure.
it's believable.
But there may be a few of them swap around here and there. But the truth is, you could see that happening at a World Championship. You could.
I mean, I've seen crazier things happen. That's all I'll say. And
yeah, exactly.
Those matchups are destiny. Like T1 Team Liquid is destiny.
T1
G2
BLG.
GENG is destiny. T1 BLG is destiny.
Yep.
HLE GENG is destiny.
HLE knocking out another team from the region as well.
Fnatic TL is destiny. DKG2 is destiny. These things just happen. They just happen. You can't explain it. It just happens.
And that's why tier lists can't be always based on logic. Okay, they can't always be based on analysis, draft analysis, player performance, because there's too many variables, Marc. And yeah, the chat's all spamming Sasuke because they're like, how does he know? And it's because, chat, I just do. So I'll leave you with that, Marc. I hope you've enjoyed this.
Yeah, that was a good tier list.
I'm excited for World Championship.
I finished this video now with 3 tier lists. Analysis tier list, bias tier list, and the script.